Hello, hello. Hey, Tammy. Hi, Priestess. I was gonna call you HP. Can y'all hear me good? We're gonna do something different today. Some Idaho 4. I used to cover this case, and then it got crazy, and it's starting to get interesting now, I think, in my opinion. Few things I want to go over on this, actually. Can y'all hear the TV in the background? Because it's on. I don't know if it's too loud. I don't want a distraction. Can y'all hear me? HP, can you hear me, love? I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. Just gonna wait a few more minutes, get some more people in here that can hear me. Anybody coming in that can hear me, let me know, because I don't know. Okay, well, I'm just gonna start this. Okay, we're gonna go back a little bit. This is an interview with Kaylee's parents, the Gonzalez family. This is a full interview with them. This was a month ago, but it was 1 year later in the interview. And we're just gonna get started.
let's start out with, it's been almost a year. I mean, it's hard to believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you guys doing? I think people would love to know that.
I think we're doing the best we can. And I think that is to be thankful to all the people that are wondering about us. They really get us through, you know, coworkers, friends, they're like family now. And I think it'd be much harder without all the love and support.
Yeah, we got a page where we're able to talk to people all across the world that this has made an impact and change in their life. So that helps, you know, Christy can share and say she's having a rough day or a bad day, or post a photo or an image, and you know, she gets that, you know, some positive feedback.
Lots of positive feedback.
And friends of Kaylee that we haven't even met will send us photos of times that they had together. So whenever you get to see new photos of your daughters, and I pass those on to the other victims' parents as well. And you know, that's always nice. So
That would mean a lot.
It does.
That would mean a lot.
I love a new photo when they come across. He'll send them to me and say, have you seen this one? And I'll do the same. Have you seen this one? Oh my gosh, no. Wow. Oh, I love it. You know?
Yes. New photos.
I hope it never stops. She had a ton of spirit. She was fun. She, you know, she loved hanging with her older sisters, her sister and brother, his friends.
She's very close with her siblings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the siblings and what the order is?
So Olivia's the oldest, and then Steven, then Kaylee, then Autumn and Aubrey.
Well, let's talk about Maddie and Kaylee, because how old were they when they met? 6th grade? Is that what I heard?
6th grade.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Well, they met early on in that 6th grade year. And they
charter school, they had uniforms.
You know,
They didn't think they were cool at all.
No. And Kaylee came home talking about this Maddie girl, and the rest was history. I mean, it was Kaylee and Maddie, you know, and
It started with Maddie's mom coming over here and like interviewing us. Sat on our couch, talked to us.
Just talked to us.
Yep.
You know, she was very concerned, you know,
Made
very,
sure it
very
was a safe
protective
place.
of, you know, Maddie spending the night places, or even coming over for a couple hours during the day, you know.
It ended with us taking her daughter to another country
and her taking our daughter, you know, to Hawaii.
So
and yeah, you know, very
trust was there after.
Yes. But yeah. And they were just inseparable. Kaylee was either over there or Maddie was at our place. So they had the best of both worlds. They did high school all together, graduated, and
Picked the same school.
Yep. They both went down there and
They rushed in the same week, went down there.
Yep.
They wanted to get in the same one together, but I don't know how it worked out, but they ended up getting
going separate ways. And they were, you know, so sad. I'll never forget that day, you know, and they were so sad, and, you know, they were happy where they wound up and whatnot, but they weren't together in the same house. And it wound up being the absolute best thing for them, you know, for their friendship.
So they loved U of I. They had a great experience
Yeah,
there for those first 3 years. They really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kaylee was pretty much graduated. She just did her finals on Monday, and that was her last class. Or that would have been her last
Would have
class.
been her last class on Monday.
Yes.
And she was coming back on Tuesday.
What do you want people to know about these girls?
You know, these girls, you know, as I refer to them now on the Gonzalez Facebook page, you know, it was at first when I posted, you know, my girls, and it's not even my girls anymore. It's our girls. Here's some new pictures of our girls, or, you know, here's a throwback of our girls. And I mean that, you know, they are everyone's girls. And you could see that in photos of them. I mean, you could see the happiness in them, you know, the love, you know, just that the bright light. They were just out to live their lives to the fullest, to be successful in life, you know, to work hard, you know, to eventually be married and have families and have good jobs. And it was just unfortunate what happened, you know, to the two of these. I know it's more than two, but these two very best friends, you know, it's just, it's real. And people, I don't think sometimes understand that this isn't TV. And yes, there's TV shows about it, but it's real.
This is your life.
This is our life.
They're not characters.
No.
It's not entertainment. It's a disaster for us. And these kids didn't do anything wrong. Everybody wants there to be some type of decision that could have been this way or that way. These kids did everything by the book, the way you're supposed to do. They went to bed at night, you know, had a dog. I mean, all the things you'd think that would keep this from happening didn't work in this particular case. So I think that's the message that I want the community to know, that these are everyone's girls. This could happen to anyone. We as a society have to stop it. We can't just out-behavior it. We can't figure out a way to just be a little bit better or walk a little straighter line, and then it won't happen to you. You have to succumb to the fact that there's people out there doing evil things, and we have to figure out how to address those people and get them off the streets before they do this to your family or to another set of kids that are just getting educated and going to school. And come home at night and go to bed.
Just enjoying their college life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody has seen the food truck video. I mean, it really sums things up. I mean, to me, their relationship, you know, in that little clip and the walking, you know, what did you tell Adam? You know, that whole, I told Adam everything. I mean, it just, it's heartwarming, but heartbreaking at the same time to watch those videos. I mean, I could watch them and smile, and I could watch them and just cry, you know, just to have them captured. And Maddie with that big old jacket, and, you know, and Kaylee saying, Maddie,
We can share it.
We could share it. And, you know, it just, so Kaylee and Maddie,
And
you know,
you hear about kids that
and the
drink
pictures.
and drive. They got a professional driver to take them back. They did everything the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
They even had chaperone walking with them. They weren't, and they're going down dark alleys by themselves.
The really popular pictures of the 4 roommates and Ethan.
Mhm.
Oh, I love those pictures.
They were
Yeah.
taken that day. They were taken earlier. Kaylee texted them to me about a little after 2 on Saturday, and with Maddie up on her shoulders. And that is the last text message that I have from Kaylee, is that picture of her and Maddie. And I replied to it, my lovies, with heart eyes. And then we had a phone call after that. And that was the last time I talked to Kaylee. But that picture of Maddie on her shoulders is the last text message that I have from Kaylee. And it's around 2:13 on Saturday.
Oh, there's just no way to know what was coming.
No. And
For
I look at
anyone.
that picture, and I just think, I would never thought that this would be the last picture, or that phone call that I got, you know, 20 minutes after that picture was going to be the last phone call. You just don't think that. And it's real. It's realer than real. I mean, it really is.
It is. Well, I
Mhm.
just love the fact that you guys have put together this beautiful Facebook page,
Yes.
and that you share so many wonderful memories and pictures that we've never seen before. People who love your daughters, because I'm calling Maddie your daughter because she basically is another one of your kids. But it's just so heartwarming to see the love you're getting from all over the world. Tell me why you were inspired to even start that page, because it does put you in kind of a vulnerable position, right? Sharing such personal things,
Yes.
but it looks like it's really a beautiful thing in the end.
Well, it originally was, I don't even really remember when it got started, but it originally kind of started for tips. Like, if you have any tips, you could, you know, come to us with tips or information. And I quickly had a different name. And I said, you know what?
Once we got a suspect.
Yeah, I said, but we're going to change this. And we changed it to the Gonzalez family page. And I said, this is going to be, you know, to say good things and to bring light and positivity. This isn't going to be, this isn't TikTok. This isn't YouTube videos. You know, this isn't, you know,
Discussions,
speculate.
debates,
Yeah.
and
Because they're out there, and, you know, they're just so yuck. You know, and I wanted to be positive. And so I kind of started running it a little bit more. My sister runs it, Steve runs it, and Olivia runs it. And, you know,
photos started coming in when people realized that that's what we were really looking for, was just a connection to her friends and the people that she grew up with that had, you know, everyone has a cell phone, everyone has a set of videos,
oh yeah,
and those started flooding in. And it
little
was,
flip phone pictures and
that-
stuff, you know,
that
from
can make it
elementary
wait.
school. Like you know, I went to elementary school, and I have this,
it's
you know,
just as beautiful.
it's amazing. And I've told people on that page before that I wish that I could reply to everybody. I can't, unfortunately. But I read all of it. I wake up in the morning, and that's the first thing I do. I take about 10-15 minutes of time reading the messages, the comments, and before I go to bed, that's the last thing I do. And I want the people out there to know how important it is to me,
It
and
made
how
a difference in our lives.
I'll share things with him, like, oh my gosh, look what this person said, or look what this, or listen to this, or, you know, I'll screenshot it and share it to my family. And it is, it's overwhelming, and it's very emotional. But it also, when they say they share our grief and they pray for us, we feel that. We really do. You know, I don't know where we would be without all the support from our community and the support from that page. It's therapeutic for me. And I don't know if the people really realize that. I try to get that point across. And I wish that I could reply to every single comment. I would have to, like, quit my job.
Yeah.
I literally would.
Well,
But-
there's like over 50,000 people on there.
Yeah,
I think.
and it just, you know, certain pictures just absolutely, people just go insane over, and we try to thank everybody for the gifts that we get, because I mean, it just comes in volumes. I mean,
Yeah, it's nice to see the world too.
oh yeah, I mean,
I
it's
love
not just,
Idaho. This is my community. Always be first, but it's nice to see that my daughter, in a way, has been thought of and seen, and in a way visited all these different places: Australia, Norway.
by proxy, you know,
Mhm.
that she's being thought of there. I mean, we had a lady go to Jerusalem and wrote a prayer and took a video of her folding up the prayer with our name on it, sticking it into the Wailing Wall, and took photos and recorded.
Like the day before all this.
Yeah, I mean,
free, so
yeah, we were just like, oh my gosh, this lady's in Jerusalem, and she said, and I said, thank you for thinking of us. And she said, I couldn't not, she was over there on vacation or whatever, visiting, and she thought of our family to stick a prayer into the Wailing Wall,
So that's why it's easy for us to share.
People
These
love
are
you
real
guys
people.
so much. I mean, they love your daughter, they love your
Yeah.
family, they know you now, so they just want to reach out in any way they can, really.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier about Murphy. Let's talk about Murphy and how special he is, and he still has an Instagram page going that people really love.
Mhm.
Do you get to see Murphy? I think people would
He's
be
a lot
interested.
cooler than us. We're Facebookers. He's
Instagram.
Yeah, he's cooler.
Yes, Murphy is Murphy Gonzalez on Instagram, and Jack runs that page for him. And they do all kinds of things. Jack,
camping.
they go. Jack is very outdoorsy. There's pictures on there with Jack and Murphy paddleboarding. Camping. Murphy's Jack's. I would have to say one of his best friends.
Comes over here.
We haven't seen Murphy for a while, but we do see Jack. But he usually does bring Murphy. But last time he was just kind of passing by working, so he didn't have Murphy with him then. But said that Murphy's doing great and his family loves Murph. And I have an Instagram account now just so I could follow Murphy because
It's the first dog for their family.
Yes.
We've always had dogs.
Yes.
And Jack always had to put up with the dogs from Kaylee.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went full circles. They got a dog together, and then he became a dog person.
He's a dog dad.
Yes, he's a dog dad. Yep.
Yes.
It's probably the perfect
Matter of
medicine
fact,
for him.
some of their last texts together were, Jack, we share a dog.
You need to talk
You
to
need to answer my text message. We share a dog, literally,
They had joint custody.
Yes, and Jack would come over because they were a little broken up at the time, and Jack would come over and pick up Murphy and take Murphy to the park and then take him home to Kaylee. Yeah, it was really, I was like, you guys are so funny with Murphy. But
you went with him to go.
Yes, we went to Salmon, Idaho.
Yeah.
1 week, when they bought Murphy. Yeah.
Oh.
And they were picking out, and they're like, which one? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just
What was it,
sitting in the
like
car.
7,000 feet, the altitude up there?
Oh, it was crazy when we were going over.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it got really, really high, and there was snow, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Put him in the back car, and they were like, something smells really bad.
Oh, he was so stinky. He was so stinky.
Oh, such a cute dog. He's your grand dog.
Yes, he's our grand dog.
Yeah. So I also noticed on Facebook, you guys share about beautiful Maddie K.
Yes.
Who is 8 months old now?
Yes, Tuesday.
Yes. So tell us about Maddie K.
Today.
Is it today?
Today.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Olivia sends us lots of pictures.
And videos.
But she's crawling. She's after her older brother and sister. She's
Okay, this was just an interview. I just wanted to, I don't know, this ain't what I thought it was. So, yeah, Lady Lolo, it is disturbing. A lot of this is. Bear with me just a second here. Okay, we're going to play next. Let's see. Okay, this was a month ago when the FBI went back to the house to build a physical model for trial. Okay, this was a month ago. Okay, then we're going to go into when the defense went in there.
The doors of 1122 King Road have remained closed for months now, its windows covered in plywood after 4 students living in the Moscow, Idaho home were stabbed to death there almost 1 year ago. But this week, FBI agents are once again entering the home to get more information as the prosecution prepares for suspect Brian Kohberger's long-awaited trial. The University of Idaho says investigators asked to gather documentation in the home that will help them construct visual and audio exhibits and a physical model of the home.
One of the reasons I think that they're trying to do this is so that they can perfectly depict to the jurors where each piece of evidence was and why the placement of that evidence would be considered important.
Police say they recovered a knife sheath in the bed in which Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogan were found dead on the 3rd floor of the home. Prosecutors allege that Kohberger's DNA proved to be a statistical match to DNA taken from the knife sheath. Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin's bodies were found in a room on the 2nd floor of the home. One of the 2 surviving roommates was in her own bedroom on the 2nd floor around the time of the murders, when she told police she saw a man in black clothes and a mask walk past her. She says she stood in shock as the man walked toward the sliding glass door leading out of the house before locking herself in her bedroom. The victims' families fought to keep the house standing until the trial is over. In a statement Tuesday, the family of Kaylee Gonzalez and the father of Xana Kernodle said they were grateful the university paused its plans to demolish it.
It's a huge piece of evidence. It's actually the largest piece of evidence in the trial.
The former FBI agent we spoke to reminded us that while it may seem odd to go back into the house after so many months, any DNA evidence collected happened a long time ago, and that's already been provided to both sides in this case. As for when this trial will actually get started, that's still an open question. Guys?
It's been almost a year now. Miguel, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Okay, so the FBI went in there. That was a month ago. Okay, then recently, Ann Taylor now went in there. So we're going to go to that one next.
Joining me now to discuss this case further, our former FBI special agent and News Nation contributor, Jennifer Koffendorfer, and prominent trial and criminal attorney, Dante Mills. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me. Well, Jennifer, I do want to go ahead and start with you. We know Brian Kohberger's defense team was in the house where the college students died Thursday and Friday of this week to gather evidence. What kind of evidence do you think they were trying to collect?
Well, I think they were going through that house again one more time before it's going to be destroyed to make sure they didn't miss anything, probably to make measurements and to just do another analysis of that house in terms of dimensions and so on. We know or believe that the prosecution will have some sort of model, and I think they wanted to go through and make their own assessments.
Well, Dante, officials plan to begin demolition of this home by December 28th. This is crazy. What is the push to do this? Why do this without a trial date? And when do you think a trial date is even going to be set?
Well, you have to remember that this property is someone's investment, right? They didn't live in the house. They rented this house to college students. You have to imagine that that's the way they made money for their family. So although this heinous crime happened in their house, you can't ask them to put their house on hold and turn it into a museum when they needed it for profit or to feed their families. So oftentimes I have a lot of cases where the crime scene is cleaned up. So crimes happen everywhere, a supermarket, a store. You don't shut that place down until the trial of that crime is over. That place is cleaned up, but what you first do is do your investigation. Both sides have the opportunity to come in and have it inspected. That will happen before it's demolished. But after that, there's really no real reason to hold this property hostage from the owner and say they can't do anything with it.
Jennifer, I see you're kind of shaking your head over there. What do you have to say in regards to that?
Sorry. So what I have to say, first of all, is that owner bequeathed that house to the university. So right now it's owned by the university. The university's plan is merely to make a memorial out of it. So there's no cost issue. There's no issue at all here that's pressing. Secondarily, there's a lot to be obtained by going into this house for jurors potentially. Listen, nothing is going to change in terms of how long it would take to get from the 2nd floor to the 3rd floor, what it would sound like between the rooms of Dylan Mortensen and where Xana and Ethan were killed. Also, also angles. What did Dylan Mortensen, angle did she have on Brian Kohberger when he walked out? All of that is going to be lost with the loss of this house.
Well, I do want to go ahead and play a moment. Oh, what did you have to say, Dante?
Kelsey, if I can. So generally, and most times in trials, jurors do not visit the scene of the crime. I know that we've seen it happen in the large scale cases, like the case in South Carolina, where they went and saw the house, but it doesn't happen hardly ever. So once those cues are taken, once the house is surveyed by the experts, jurors aren't going to visit that property, and there's really no reason to hold it.
So many questions here on what to do. I do want to go ahead and play a moment from Ashley Bansfield's recent interview with Steve Gonzalez. Let's go ahead and take a listen, and I then want to get your guys' reactions.
Do you think it's at all possible that the prosecution is so confident about their case, they're not worried at all about the house standing?
I've been told that exactly. I've been told 100%. The amount of stuff we have, Steve, relax. You know, you're a very aggressive father. Relax.
Jennifer, how confident are you that by now the prosecutors have all that they need?
Well, I think it's exactly right. I think that's why the prosecution is not objecting. I think the defense isn't objecting because they don't want those jurors in there to see that scene, even though it's cleaned up to the degree it could be. I do agree that this is a very strong case, but if you look at the Murdaugh case, which is a South Carolina case that recently happened, whenever you have multi-murder victims, like in this situation, it's very advantageous for jurors to be able to go through such a scene. And in fact, the jurors remarked, the Murdaugh, that they were able to it helped them reach their verdict. So I find it just very improper, really, that they would be destroying this house.
Well, Dante, if all of the evidence has been collected from the house, would there be any benefit in keeping the house still physically there?
There absolutely could be benefit, and I agree with the guest. There is benefit because there's nothing like hearing sounds from one floor as opposed to the other. But practically, that's just not how our court system works.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider.
Hey, Sonia love. I kind of agree with you, HP. There's something weird about it. Yeah. Just a second. Just a second. Shit, I can't get nothing right now. Bear with me here, loves. I agree, HP. It's just, I don't know, something weird about all this shit. It's weird. Very fucking weird. I agree. Yeah. Okay, let's watch this next one. This one's still about the Ann Taylor and all them going into the house and all that. And bear with me.
Since November 13th, 2022. I'm talking about that quadruple stabbing situation, though. On the campus of the University of Idaho, the alleged killer in all of this, Brian Kohberger, we have been kind of bringing you updates on some of the developments as we are on the trial track here very, very soon. But this is what we know. New information today in the Brian Kohberger trial as well. This is what we know. Kohberger, of course, is the man accused of stabbing those 4 University of Idaho students to death in their off-campus house in November of 2022. Well, that house is set to be demolished later this month in just a matter of weeks. Now, though, Kohberger's defense team wants to visit the home one more time. So to talk about this, the trial, and specifically the defense team's visit, to the house on King Road. We're going to be joined right now by our friend, legal analyst, criminal defense attorney, Nicole DeBoard, and she joins us. And Nicole, thanks for being with us here. We rely on your expertise and insight so much in the Kohberger case. Now, my question to you is, why would the defense need to visit the home one final time before it gets demolished? Strategically speaking, what is in it for them to do that?
Just sometimes being in the physical space is incredibly helpful. And it's they're going to be the last time. If the home is going to be destroyed, they will never, of course, be able to access that space again. You can look at pictures, but it's just not the same as being there. The things that you can notice as you're trying to put the case together are just different than you can possibly tell from photographs. So it's a good idea just to be on the safe side for the defense team. And quite frankly, I feel certain that the prosecution has done the same to access that scene to make sure that they know what the space feels like. It's hard to get an idea for dimensions when you're not standing in the room, and just look around, take it in, understand exactly where things are in relation to each other.
You say on the safe side, though, I mean, wouldn't they have already gotten everything they need? I mean, what would be, to look for now? It seems like this is somewhat of a, I don't know, last ditch. Would you describe it that way or no?
I really wouldn't. I don't think that they're looking for a particular piece of information or a particular piece of evidence. I think what they want to make sure that they've done is understand the space, because as trial happens, you're going to have witnesses testify about things that they uncovered at a certain location in the home, or you're going to hear testimony about where things may have happened in the home. And looking at images of it is just not the same as being in the physical space. And the attorneys aren't going to be able to do that again once the home is destroyed, of course.
Yeah. So say hypothetically they did.
Yeah, HP, it is set to be demolished December 28th this year, the house. What I'm getting at with playing, like, and Taylor and them going into the house and stuff here recently, and now all of a sudden they're going to tear it down. Why? There isn't even, they changed the trial date. There's not even a trial date now. I would rather have the house sitting there and not even ever use it in the case rather than tear it down and then need it again. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I don't think he might get off, but I think there was somebody else with him. So there's more to this. I don't know, for some reason, I feel like maybe Kohberger was the getaway driver. I don't know. But I think he's definitely involved, but I think there's somebody else involved. But yeah, I'd rather the house be sitting there through the trial and never have to use it and then tear it down and need it later on. It don't make no fucking sense. I've never seen them tear down houses like this. Look at the Watts house. There's just so many houses, still standing with murders in them, and there's just something really weird. And then I heard, because they were wanting to tear the house down and do a memorial there, the University of Idaho, because they own the house now. Well, now I heard they're doing a memorial somewhere else, not even at that house. Why are they in such a hurry to tear this house down? There's not even a trial date yet. But they didn't make this decision until after Ann Taylor, Brian Kohberger's lawyer, went in there. It makes no fucking sense. And what the dad says about it, Kaylee's dad, we'll get to that. I'm working my way up. It's interesting.
Find something advantageous or disadvantageous to their case. Will it be admissible, you think?
It possibly could be, but again, I would be surprised if they're actually looking for a piece of evidence or something in particular related to the visit. I suspect they really want to understand, what you can see from one angle if you're standing in one room, what you might be able to hear from one location to the other. They might want to see what the lighting is like inside the house, when the lights are on, when the lights are off. I think there are all kinds of things that you can take in if you're just present in a space, as opposed to relying on someone documenting that space in a report, even with solid measurements, even with the three-dimensional engineering type devices that they have to reconstruct a space. really looking at pictures or secondhand information about what the space is like is, again, just really not the same. It's sort of a second place replacement.
Yeah, we do have a statement in, though, as well from the University of Idaho. Just kind of elucidating this here. I'm going to read it. Teams representing the defense for Brian Kohberger will access the King Roadhouse today and tomorrow, Thursday, December 14th, and Friday, December 15th. The defense asked University of Idaho in November for access to the house in December as they prepare their case for a trial, the date of which has not been set. The defense indicated they wanted to take photographs, measurements, and possibly gather drone footage of the house.
Okay, then right after this, they set it to be demolished December 28th.
Nicole, you don't get a sense this is a delay tactic here for the defense team because we don't know the trial. That date has not been set yet. Of course, we're on a trial track here, but that remains to be seen. That's not in the strategy, is it?
I really don't think that it is. I think that it's important, especially since it's been telegraphed to them that this space is going to be destroyed. If they later do have questions about exact measurements or something that they could have noticed had they been in the space, they won't be able to go back and gather that information. So, a lot of times you're going to access drone footage, you're going to access specific measurements in preparing your diagrams for a particular case, and they really need to have that information ready to go so that when they construct their exhibits later, they have it. They're not going to be able to get it once that house is gone.
The victim's parents, Nicole, also expressed concern about tearing down the house before the trial got underway here. Do you think that could impact a jury? Because I was reminded today, and you might remember this as well, there in South Carolina earlier this year, the Alec Murdaugh murder trial, the day jurors rendered their guilty verdict upon Alec Murdaugh, the jurors got to go to the alleged scene of the crime and take it all in the day they rendered their guilty verdict here. The jury won't get that chance. In this case,
that's true. Yeah, no, that's such a great point because it can be a very different feeling for the jurors to actually experience the space, just like it is for the lawyers who are going to actually experience the space for themselves as they prepare their measurements, their exhibits, their photographs, things that they might like to use in trial. Certainly if it's destroyed before trial, you can't ask the jurors to go through and do a walkthrough or to experience the scene for themselves, which can be, especially in a case as horrific as this one, an incredibly emotional experience.
Yeah, so we know this kind of tour, what have you, is happening today and tomorrow. You don't think anyone's going to step in here and get a court to block the demolition, do you, before the 28th? Is there anything afoot here with that? Why would anyone do that if they wanted to?
If they decided to do that, it's because they believe they might need the house, the space, the crime scene, if you will, available for inspection either by the court or by potential jurors in the future, or because they're still gathering information and want to further work on their crime scene diagrams or collecting information about the crime scene to prepare for trial. So it's not impossible. It could happen.
All right, Nicole DeBorde, as always, we do appreciate your time on this Thursday night. And I keep reminding our viewers, Nicole, we're going to rely on your expertise and insight. Once the trial gets underway, once a date gets set, of course, that remains to be seen. Hopefully in the new year, we'll get a better sense of that. Nicole, thanks so much.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's not right to tear that house down. Okay, now here is we are going to hear Kaylee's dad, Steve, speak. Really, really listen and pay attention to what he has to say. Okay, this was just a few days ago. Yes, or a couple of days ago, maybe. Very recent.
I am joined now live by Steve Gonzalez. He is the father of one of the 4 students killed, Kaylee Gonzalez. Steve, thank you for being on tonight. Just your reaction to getting this news. Was this a surprise, hearing that there's a date scheduled and it is December 28th?
Yeah, I was surprised that we're at a moment in the case that we don't even have a trial date. We've had a trial date for almost the vast majority of once they had a suspect. So we don't have a trial date, but we have a date to have, largely the biggest piece of evidence being destroyed, which just seems backwards.
So I would have expected that something this monumental would have been discussed behind the scenes, that your lawyer, Shannon Gray, would have been in conversations at least to give you guys, enough time to process this. And it sounds like that's not the case. You didn't get much time, different than the time that we got in terms of this announcement.
No, and I kind of take this as from a perspective of that. My opinion's not important as a parent. That's not it. What is important is the lead investigators at the county, state, and federal level, and it is to my knowledge that they are not in all agreement. And we tried to get them to all come in agreement and address, come out with a formal statement. So if they can't all agree, I find it very hard for the parents to all agree. We're all trying to get through this the best.
Okay, and I do have a thing I'll play later, but Ethan Chapin's parents want it tore down. They're the only ones that wants it tore down. And the only reason that I could think that they would want it tore down is because they still have children going to that college. But still, why would you? Ethan's parents have always been a little odd to me. I don't know, but they want it down. Why? Don't you want justice for your son?
Best way we can. I want to be absolutely respectful to every single one of the parents. I understand. I understand that this has to go down, and I'm not going to fight it forever. And I want to be careful what I fight, because there's, this is a losing battle. But
well, and it's a long battle as well, as we've come to understand. That brings me to the issue of Mrs. Chapin. Ethan Chapin's mom, Stacy, has given that statement to me, saying that, we're okay with this at this point. We agree with the university. We think it's in the best interest of the kids who are there, including her 2 kids, and the community as a whole. What are your thoughts about that?
I totally respect it. I get it. I have leaked footage. I've seen things that they made.
Yeah, I get that, HP, PTSD and stuff, but they're going to have that for the rest of their life regardless. And I'm not trying to be insensitive to this, but it's wild. Okay, now what Steve's getting ready to say here, listen up very carefully what he says here.
I have leaked footage. I've seen things that they may have not seen. I know for a fact the path that this white Swan, this car took, and people are going to wonder what he was doing when he parks in certain locations for extended amount of time.
Okay, he says that he has leaked footage. He knows where he parked at certain times and
what was he looking at? I want to know what he was looking at. And I don't know how you can see what this man was looking at without the house being there. What window?
exactly. That's, how can you go back and say, because evidently the killer drove around a while and kept looking, parking in certain spots, like he was looking in the windows and seeing who was up and who was doing this and who, you know what I'm saying? Like,
windows was he peering into? Why did he pick that location to stop at? Why did he keep going back to these certain locations? And I don't know about the other 12 or 13 times that he was there. I just know of the day that this happened and the footage that was given to me. So I'm going to do what's best for my girl. I'm going to protect her. I'm going to weigh on the side of what's best for her and making sure that I'm not going to let something slip through our hands that I could have said something.
But the way he talks, there's some footage that proves a lot more than we know. And I don't think it's a Linda Lane footage at all. This is a whole new leaked footage that he has seen that shows this stuff that he's telling us right now.
I do understand it has to go.
I have this question for you because up until now I hadn't really contemplated this, but do you think it's at all possible that the prosecution is so confident about their case, they're not worried at all about the house standing?
I've been told that exactly. I've been told 100%. The amount of stuff we have, Steve, relax. You're a very aggressive a father. Relax. But it's not in my character to just sit back and just know.
See, it sounds like the police has showed him some kind of video evidence or something, because he says the police told him, relax, relax. And I feel like they showed him some kind of footage to get him to calm down, to, that, hey, we got this, dude, just chill. You know what I'm saying? Because Steve has been fighting hard, and yeah.
Know that an opportunity to understand it has to go.
I have this question for you because up until now I hadn't really contemplated this, but do you think it's at all possible that the prosecution is so confident about their case?
Just listen to
They're
this.
not worried at all about the House standing.
I've been told that exact thing. I've been told 100%. The amount of stuff we have, Steve, relax. You're a very aggressive a father. Relax. But it's not in my
But how do you tell someone like this to relax? How in the hell are you supposed to fucking relax?
character to just sit back and just know that an opportunity isn't being seized upon. And I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't live with myself if later on, something happened and a jury member said, you know what, it really came down to the fact that I couldn't see firsthand. They told us the ideal jury member was someone who had thousands of acres and had no time to watch TV. He was out on the farm. Well, I don't feel like that kind of guy is going to see the footage that I seen and not want to understand what was going on in the house. And a computer program is going to mean nothing to that farmer. Almost zero value in a computer model to a farmer like that.
I want to dovetail off something you just said, and that is that they've told you that, Steve, the amount of stuff we have, relax. Are you referring to like victims advocates or people actually in the know of the case, that they have such a solid case that you should rest easy?
Because I've made myself vocal, people have reached out to me, and some of those people have just said that if what I know is accurate, Steve, there's a massive amount of information. This case will open up other investigators to know that there's a whole nother level of data being collected on people.
Did you hear that? Let's listen to that part again.
Is accurate, Steve, there's a massive amount of information. This case will open up other investigators to know that there's a whole nother level of data being collected on people, and some of that will come out in this case.
Thank you for watching. Go to new.
Okay, so he said there's a whole lot of data being collected on people. That makes me wonder, was there cameras inside of the house? Was someone with him during the murders and recorded the murders? What kind of data is being collected on someone else? What has he seen, Let's see here. Okay, now I'm gonna play a couple older things too, from Steve and stuff that he was speaking on, because he has dropped a little tidbits of information here and there, for us. This was a year ago when Steve reveals information about the brutal weapon.
Pressure and frustration growing in Idaho as the hunt for a murderer hits 30 days with no results.
You can feel it here in Moscow. It's just a very heavy cloud. It's a hard place to be.
Police spokesperson Robbie Johnson telling ABC News they brought in an army of experts and FBI support to comb through new tips about the white Hyundai Elantra seen in the immediate area in the early morning hours of November 13th.
We'd like to know who was in that car that night, where it might be now. It could be in a different state. We have resources across the country that are ready to jump on in any information we can provide on that and follow those leads and talk to whoever is in that car.
Local businesses heeding the call, turning over surveillance video, anything that might help.
They said that ours was actually one of the best, like clearest. They could see clear across to the other side of the road. So they were kind of hopeful when they did get that footage.
With new details, authorities re-interviewing residents, bringing back memories.
Do they have those reports of a scream that was heard?
They're aware of people talking about that happening, and of course they're looking into that type of thing. Every bit of information that comes in, they're looking into.
The university preparing to close for winter break after holding commencement ceremonies over the weekend, honoring Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Gonzalez, who was set to graduate. Instead, her father Steve, desperate for answers and pleading with authorities to find the person and the weapon responsible.
This was a brutal weapon. It sounds like it was a professional type weapon that couldn't break, and they weren't stab wounds. You know, they were like large punctures.
And so right now, people in this normally close-knit college town are asked to remain vigilant, to travel in pairs and stick to well-lit areas.
Machete. It's kind of like, you know, how we've been going back in Summer's case from the beginning and stuff. It's always good to always go back to the beginning of these cases sometimes, you know, and hear the new stuff or old stuff, I mean, I should say, but okay, let's see here. Oh, hey, Ash. How you doing, love? You know, and I also wondered if they had like an Alexa or something in the house and it picked it up. Because, you know, we've heard of cases where the Alexas pick up stuff. Xana was holding a machete. Right, HP, that's what I'm saying. You know, it's. Hmm. Bored at work. I get that. I'm doing good. Doing really good. But haven't they already proved that it was a K-bar knife or whatever, high priestess? Or maybe they just because they found that sheath, you know? Maybe the sheath was to throw them off? Oh, did they what? Sorry, you know how it's a lag, HP. I hate the lags. Yeah, that large knife isn't gonna make large puncture wounds. I don't know. It could. You know, if you, like, rip it, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Oh, yeah, about the Alexa, I don't know if they had one or not, but come on, they were look at them. You know, just about everybody has one these days, especially younger people. It just makes me wonder. Or what if Kaylee heard somebody go upstairs over to Maddie's room, and she started recording on her phone or something, and then she went over there to see what was going on, and that's why Murphy was in her room, locked in her room, and he got her because I still think Maddie was the target, and he was not expecting, uh, Kaylee to be there. Then I think Ethan and Xana was just wrong place, wrong time, and he had to get rid of the witnesses, you know? But Steve has seen something, some kind of recording or something. Do you all think Brian done it alone or someone was with him? Yeah, he did follow her on Instagram. I think, Ashley, that come out in the beginning, I believe, and I believe he knows Maddie from the Mad Greek restaurant because he was vegan, and that's a vegan, and I've always thought Maddie, you know, and I thought Maddie was the first one to get killed because the sheath, you know, he pulled it out, laid it down, you know, and you get that adrenaline rush and you forget the sheath. That's where he started, and that's why the sheath was there. That's what I think. Yep, someone else was involved. The roommate, yep, knows more. I agree, in my opinion. Okay, and what do y'all think about that Brent Kopacka guy? He has always, ever since that came out with him, he came into the picture, has always been in my gut. I don't know. There's something about him, you know, and Brent's dead now, and, you know, they couldn't arrest somebody else in this if they're deceased. And Brent was military. He can get military weapons like the K-bar. I think Dylan knows more too, Sonia. I do, in my opinion. I do. Bethany, I think she might be the most innocent one. Bless her heart, because she was downstairs. I don't really know, but I don't feel like Bethany knows anything. I don't. She's, in my opinion. Dylan now, come on. Come on. And how Dylan described his eyebrows and shit. It was dark, allegedly. But remember in the beginning when all the lights stayed on for months in that house and stuff, the same lights, they never turned them out. They done that. That whatever lights was on that we seen right after it happened was the lights that were on when they got murdered. Because they could not turn the lights out. They have to leave everything exactly like it is because it's a crime scene. So that main living room light was on. There was a bunch of lights on. Yeah, I hope they do put her on the stand, Ashley. They do. Surely they would because she's like an eyewitness or whatever, you know? I hope there's some way that we can watch the trial because I'll stream it for us. And yeah, definitely. Because I've kind of backed off this case, you know, because so much was going on. Wasn't really nothing new coming out now, you know, shit's getting kind of real. Okay, a while back, some of y'all may have watched this. I don't know if y'all follow T-Rev. He done an interview with Brent Kopacka's alleged best friend a while back, 4 months ago. I watched this live when it was happening, and it was freaking insane. But the judge approved cameras in the courtroom. Hell yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Okay, this here is just a little segment of T-Rev's. If a mod could drop T-Rev's link. This was very interesting, and I don't know. This is just a clip from the live. I have the whole live we can watch, but it's like hours long, and yeah.
He goes by T-Rev, so we'll call him that as well. And he joins us now. Thank you very much for coming with your...
June, by the way. We know family and friends are still grieving. Despite this, some YouTube creators have pulled Brent's name into the Kohberger case with no evidence or care for those who loved him. Is any legal action being pursued for pain and suffering against those false claims?
It's a lot harder than you think it is to sue people over something like that. As far as I know, no, the family's not out to sue anybody. They don't even want to talk to the press.
Just listen to some of the shit this dude says. Just listen.
They don't want anything to do with this shit. They want to sit and heal, leave them alone. But as far as suing people goes, it just doesn't work that way. Most attorneys won't even take your case if it's for slander or defamation of character because it's such a hard thing to prove. And you have to be able to prove that you suffer from mental illness because of it, or you lost your job, or your neighbors kicked your ass because of it, something like that. Most attorneys won't even call you back when it comes to that. So unfortunately, it's not really on the table.
Who's these guys? What, the one talking right now, High Priestess, with the beard right here? T-Rev. Do you know T-Rev? He's a creator. I like him. He's been very good in this. But this guy here is Brent Kopacka's alleged best friend. And T-Rev interviewed him a while back. His name's Darren or something like that. Just listen to him. T-Rev, yeah, he does true crime. I posted the link there to this video. Yeah, like he's got some good stuff on all this. He's a pretty good kid from what I see. Who's Brent Kopacka? Hold on, we'll get into that. He lived very close to where Brian Koberger lived. He's in the military, and he died. Like, I don't know, it's weird. Just we'll get into it.
And to be honest, they're not interested in something like that because all it's going to do is bring more pain to them. You know, like they're just trying to heal and mourn and just be out of the goddamn spotlight. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think some of the Idaho 4 victims' families are speaking out either, and those are the ones that are really in the spotlight, and their families aren't even speaking out. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. I may be wrong about that.
You're right, because we raised about almost $3,000 now for Xander Kernodle, and her dad's quiet and her sister's quiet. They're not speaking. They're grieving in a different way than everybody grieves differently.
Privately, as they should be allowed to do.
Exactly, privately. And I respect that. Some people are like, why are they quiet?
They don't owe you anything. They owe you zero.
Right.
So
they can
don't feel entitled and don't think that they owe you anything. They don't have to speak out. Thing too is I don't think they would seek the death penalty if they didn't have enough evidence for it. They don't typically do that. And for them to push it back so far is because they got to build a defense. They must have a lot of evidence on this dude, enough to seek the death penalty, and they got to come up with a defense somehow. And that takes many, many months to do, I would assume. I don't know. I haven't been in that position. I'm not going to ignore anybody. I see Social Butterfly here saying what really happened that day. Was he really freaking out? I don't know. I wasn't there. I wish I was. I want to answer that person's question. What happened that day? I do not know because I was not there. And with all of my heart, I truly wish that I was there, because I think that if I was there the night that Brent got killed by the cops, I assume that's what she's talking about, right? If I was there, I believe Brent would still be alive. What I honestly think happened that night is I know that Brent did not like his roommates. They did not get along, and whether it was because he played his music loud or whatever, I don't know why, but I know that he didn't really like them very much. He didn't like anybody on the West Coast for that matter. What I think happened is they got into an argument. Brent was probably drunk. He was probably drinking, playing some music too loud or something. They got into a argument. Brent could have said something along the lines of, "Get out of my room or I'll kill you." Something along those lines, I think. I'm not saying that he grabbed a gun.
Yes, High Priestess, he's dead, yes. And this all happened right after Idaho 4 murders.
Gun and waved it around the living room, was going to shoot everybody. That's not what I think happened. I think that him and his roommates did not like each other. They were probably looking for a reason to get him out, and the fact that they got into a big fight, he might have said, "I'll kill you" or something. They call the cops and they're like, "Cool, this is a way to get him out." I don't know if they were on campus or close to campus or whatever, but being in a situation like that with a gun involved, especially in this country, they're going to take it extremely serious. So the cops show up. I also think due to proximity in distance and in time, I think that since the murders happened about 20 miles away, about a month before, I think that the cops in their mind may have been like, what if this is that kid that killed those people? Like, what if it's that guy? And so they go in full defense mode. They talked. Well, actually, there was quite a bit of a lack of communication. From what I was told, they did try to give him a phone to speak with them, like a negotiator or whatever. He would not talk to them. And after 7 or 8 hours, they decided to shoot him. And I think that after the fact, I think the cops fucked up that. I think they dropped the ball and it completely landed on mine and the family's foot. And I think that after they killed him, they were like, "Oh, this wasn't who we thought it was. It was just a kid with PTSD. We f***ed up." His room was empty when the family went in. His room was empty, and his cell phone was on the kitchen counter, and it was factory reset. I think that the cops I think they made a mistake. They covered their tracks. That's what I think happened. Just my opinion. I was not there. And as I said, I wish I was there, because
in my opinion, I think Brent planned this. I don't know. I've always thought Brent was involved for some reason ever since the very beginning when he got killed and stuff. I think that he planned to have suicide by cops.
If I was there, I could have talked him down. Whatever was on the other side of the door, I could have been like, dude, it's fine. It's cool. Let's just leave. Or if the cops did show up, if I could have talked to him on the phone or something, I could have said, go outside, get arrested. We'll get you out tomorrow. You might be in a lot of trouble. You might get arrested and do some jail time, but you'll be alive. And he would be alive today if I had the opportunity to speak to him or if I was there. As far as the question goes, what happened that night, I do not know because I was not there. And I really wish that I was. I do not know why his phone was factory reset to answer somebody's question. That's a mystery to the family and myself. We don't know why his room was empty. There was nothing in his room.
His phone was factory reset?
His phone was factory reset and it was on the kitchen counter.
That's weird, bro.
It's super weird. And
that's weird.
If the only thing that was left in his bedroom was some electronics that were broken, a safe that was broken, and his release forms from the army. That was the only things, as far as I know, that's what I was told. That's what was left in his bedroom. You mean to tell me he didn't have a bed? He didn't have a dresser? He didn't have anything? So something is it's very fishy about that. And I'm gonna beat the conspiracy theorists to it for people to say that he was a patsy or any of that stuff. Brent was in the army. He served his 4 years. He got an injury. He got a Purple Heart. He got out. He wasn't a patsy. He didn't work for the FBI or the CIA. There's no reason for him to be a patsy. I believe that the cops up. And this happens. Cops make mistakes. Cops are just women and men just like us. They have jobs to do. Everywhere you've ever worked, there are good performers and there are bad performers. And unfortunately, this happens in our system as well. There are good guys and bad guys. And I think they up and they're like, oh shit. And I think that they kind of covered it up. And if you want to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist for that, I think that is way more believable than all the other conspiracy theories that are being thrown out there about Brent Kopacka. So
just, that I'm sorry, but and this is not, it's weird on their part, on the police side. Like, I mean, a factory reset phones.
Exactly. Why? And did you know this? I was actually contacted by the police the night that he was killed by them. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So I was at work, and I worked at General Mills at the time, and I worked from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. That was my schedule. And it was around midnight that my phone kept ringing about 4, 5, 6 times in a row. And I kept sending it to voicemail because I'm like, who the f is this? I'm at work. Around midnight, they called me, and I finally answered because I figured whoever the hell is calling me, it must be important. So I answered, and it was a woman, and she basically asked me, do I know Brent Kopacka? And I said, yeah, why? What's going on? And she said, she did not use the word barricade, by the way. She said, he's in his bedroom and he won't come out. He got into an argument with his roommates. He's in his bedroom and he won't come out. And she did let me know that she was a police officer. I don't know if she used the word detective or whatever. I said, like, is he okay? And she said, yeah, he's fine, but he won't come out of his room. Then she asked me if he was in the army. I said, yeah, a long time ago. She asked if he owned a gun, and I said, this is America. Pretty much all of us have guns. I'm pretty sure he has a gun, yeah, for protection. And then she asked if he was violent or if he would hurt anybody, and I said, no. And in fact, like, Brent was not a tough guy. He wasn't a meathead. He wasn't the type of dude that would get in fights. He wasn't a jerk off like that. And I told this lady, I'm like, there's no way he's not out there like to hurt anybody. If he does own a gun, it's simply for protection, and he's not going to hurt anybody. Like, why? What's going on? And then she just said he wouldn't come out of his room. And then she asked me, she's like, if this develops, if I have any more questions for you, can I call you back? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Never got a phone call back. I got off. I immediately texted Brent. I'm like, what's going on? Are you okay? Absolutely nothing. Didn't hear anything back. The next morning when I got off work, I was calling him, texting him, getting nothing. I was texting that phone number that called me, the police officer. She would not respond to me. She wouldn't answer my phone calls. So eventually I reached out to an ex-girlfriend of Brent's on Facebook, and I said, because I was not friends with any of his family members at the time on Facebook. Me and Brent were very, very close. I did not know his family that well. They're scattered out amongst the country. There's some in Illinois, some out west in Washington. I didn't really speak to them. I haven't spoke to his mom and dad since I was a teenager, when they would drop him off and pick him up from my house to spend the night on the weekends, So I'm not Facebook friends with any of them. But I asked his ex-girlfriend if she was, and she said, yeah, this is his stepmom. I contacted her and I said, what's going on with Brent? The cops called me last night. And she's like, Brent's dead. The cops killed him. I just like, I called her like on the Facebook Messenger thing, and she basically told me that there was like a standoff and they shot him and killed him. And she was pretty upset. She was pissed off kind of that they called me. She's like, I don't know why the hell they called you. Like, we're his parents. Why didn't they call us? And I don't know why they called me either. I don't even know how they got
your number.
Well, this is the thing, is like, I don't know how. It makes me wonder.
Okay, so why did they call him? How did they get his number if his Brent's phone was factory reset it? You know what I mean? How would they, and why would they call this motherfucker? He lives in Illinois or somewhere. He's not even close to Brent. Yeah, this dude was so full of shit during this.
This is why I wish I was there, dude, because in my opinion, I think he might have been yelling through the door or out the window or whatever, call Darren, I want to talk to Darren. Because how would they have gotten my number? Like, if they did a background check on him or whatever, or like ran his phone number or whatever, I don't know how they would get any of this information. I'm not a cop. So if you have any cops as your audience, please help me out with this.
He goes by T-Rev, so we'll...
Yeah, very strange, wasn't it? And I don't know, I just think this dude was involved in, yeah, I think he wanted to do death by suicide with cops, you know what I mean? However that's said, I don't know. Okay, now this here is on Crime Circus's channel. This is a little documentary on Brent Kopacka and Brian Kohberger, and how ironic they have the same initials, BK.
To Moscow, Idaho, and we're going to talk about Brent Kopacka in this video too. Without further ado, let's see what I have to say for myself this time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Crime Circus. My name is Drip Drop, and I'll be your host as always. Now, moving right along, let's take a miniature deep dive, aka a very shallow dive, into the alleged passing away and alleged slaying of a purple-hearted soldier. Mr. Brent Kopacka, thank you so much for serving the United States of America and fighting for their freedom. They certainly needed it. You can never have too much freedom, can you? A huge, huge, huge shout out to the freest, most beautiful country in the entire world. If you're proud to be an American, leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Anyways, I found this body camera footage on the Truth and Transparency YouTube channel. She's done some deep dives into this case, and she cracked it wide open like an egg. The yolks and the whites are splattered all over her kitchen. She's done so much explosive investigating and egg cracking in this case. Yeah. You want some booms? She'll give you some. We're going to fly right through this important information and give you as many booms as we can in a short amount of time. Let's start with this body camera footage right here. It's been manipulated. There's no timestamp and no date. Why are they doing this? And who do they think they're fooling with these manipulated videos that they're releasing via public records requests? Don't we, the public, have a right to see the time and date on a body camera footage? With it missing? Red flag. What do they have to hide? I've seen tens of thousands of body camera videos, and I've never ever seen the time and date removed. Busted. Boom. And for this video specifically, they had gone into a resident's apartment without permission. That's called breaking and entering and trespassing. Yeah. And they knew it too, so they went to great lengths in this cover-up. They really did. Allegedly. You gotta remember, this is all someone else's fantasy. It's not mine, and it's certainly not even my program. I'm just filling in for the day, and you can't get mad at the substitute teacher, can you?
No.
No, and this doesn't have anything to do with me, and this has to go a lot higher up the chain than me if you want to voice any concerns or complaints about Crime Circus. The police would have needed a search warrant to get into that resident's apartment without permission, and they only asked for permission after they had already entered. Whoops. Busted on their own body cams, even after they tried to edit it. And speaking of search warrants, let's listen to this clip right here.
We have a search warrant for your residence. You are under arrest. You are authorized to use force against you to include chemical agents. If you do not comply, force may be used against you. That force may result in injury to your person or property.
Did you catch that? Let's play it again.
We have a search warrant
They very clearly said they have a search warrant for that apartment. Do you catch my drift? A search warrant. They didn't say they have an arrest warrant. Those are two hugely different things. A search warrant is not an arrest.
See, I find it weird that the cops thought Brent was a suspect at first. Or maybe they still. Because it was like a standoff with the cops, you know, and that's how he got shot. He had a gun in there. I don't know. And he lived, what, 20 minutes from the crime scene and lived, way I took it, maybe walking distance to Brian Kohberger.
Arrest warrant, and an arrest warrant is not a search warrant, obviously. So what were they yelling about they have a search warrant for that apartment for? What were they planning on searching for in that apartment? I certainly would love to see that list of items they were searching for, because that's what a search warrant has to list. The items they expect to find within. Truth and transparency, if you're watching this, it might be time to put in some additional requests. We want that search warrant paperwork right now. Did they have an arrest warrant for Brent? If so, they certainly didn't say they had one, and it's something you think they would say. And only a judge can sign off on an arrest warrant. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to have to be the one to present these things to you, but I look around and almost nobody else is. And this stuff is really, really important. I haven't seen a single mainstream media news channel talking about this case at all. Nothing. Now let's look at another piece of body camera footage from that fateful night. Supposedly, they had been tear gassing Brent's apartment all night long. But how can these officers just be standing here with no masks on? Yeah, some of them have masks, but a lot of them don't, including the private resident Simon, who's just hanging out in his apartment with the SWAT team. Yeah, like we believe that one. Private citizens can't just hang out in their apartment with the SWAT team. They would have been escorted off the property so fast you wouldn't have even seen me blink. Yeah, that fast. I mean, seriously. If you're even cooking peppers or squirt a little hot sauce into your frying pan, everybody in your house is going to start coughing, your eyes are going to start watering, and it's going to be a little hard to breathe. How are these officers able to just stand around so casually?
Can you say something so I know you are okay?
And we certainly don't see any tear gas, and tear gas is quite visible.
And remember, the guy that was talking earlier, Brent's alleged friend, never mentioned tear gas in that whole interview with T-Rev, never.
Anybody that's seen any riots or protests has seen the canisters. That whole place would have been smoked up. They released their little narrative in these body camera videos, and they played us for fools. They thought we were really naive with low IQs. But it turns out our IQs are a whole lot higher than they thought they were. They underestimated us, but we're really good investigators, and we piece all the different clues together, and we get a better understanding of what happened. Allegedly. This is a guessing show. If you're looking for factual news, this might not be the actual right program for you, although we do try our best. I always try to bring the receipts, too. So take that for what it's worth. Additionally, they expect us to believe that a crazed madman was holed up in that apartment firing shots at anybody and everybody. We didn't even hear a single word coming from that apartment. Dead silent.
We want to resolve this peacefully. Brent, can you say something so I know you are okay?
No threats of any kind. No requests for anything. No demands for anything. We didn't really hear anything of any kind. So, we didn't hear any threats, no yelling, no cussing. They say he fired his weapon about 30 times. I didn't hear anything of the sort. I didn't hear him yelling any threats at officers. And one police officer even lied over the radio and claimed that Brent Kopacka was yelling death threats to the police officers.
Police Department Officer Banks radioed. She heard Kopacka say, he's going to start killing people now, starting with the people outside. Boom. Gotcha.
Is that police officer a liar?
You're a fucking liar, Banks. You're a fucking liar. You are an absolute liar.
According to the audio we can hear, when you compare the audio to her written report, it appears to be a lie. Allegedly. So why are they lying? If a police officer feels the need to lie, I consider that a boom. So, I'm going to tell you what I think happened. My theory on the passing away of a soldier. Not that anybody asked for my opinion, but I'm going to tell you what I think. I think he was swatted.
Oh my God.
I think the police rolled up trigger happy with their adrenaline pumping, and they passed him away. I don't even think he was armed. I think this happened at about 8:35 p.m., just after when the 911 call came in. I think every single thing after that was a training course in cover-ups, which would explain why only one body camera was even turned on for this entire situation. And that officer only showed up 5 hours after it started. They take us for fools, but we're not that foolish, are we? No, we're not. A lot of those officers there probably didn't even know it was a cover-up. They were just taking orders, listening to what was being told to them through the radio that appeared to have been on a loop, with looping questions. Yeah.
Do we want to have keys for the apartment?
Awesome. We also have a door code, so the more options, the better.
Copy. What apartment number?
311-311. Go ahead.
A no color 2011 Ford Fiesta 9 of 23.
Can you get a hold of the WSP unit on Latah and tell them to come back? They still have the people's dog in the back of their car.
Do we want to have keys for the apartment?
Because you got to think how bad that would look for the apartments, the university, the police department, if they had just rolled up and passed away an unarmed man because they were scared, and then they had found out it was a swatting phone call. So the next 8 to 9 hours had turned into a training exercise. And some of you know, but most of you don't know. SWAT team was actually planning on having training that very morning, just not that early in the morning. It was supposed to be later on in the morning. So, what a coincidence. Maybe they just pushed the training back a little sooner than planned. Training, aka a training in cover-ups. Allegedly. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in this rabbit hole way too deep. Way too deep. The alleged information that I'm uncovering is scary. I know just watching this, you're probably even scared for me. But I don't fear passing. So, if it happens, maybe I'll be in a better place. I just hope nothing happens to my loved ones. Now, let's talk about the 911 call. What 911 call, right? They haven't released it, and this is an officially closed case. They investigated it for an entire year after it happened. We still don't have the 911 call. We don't even know who made the 911 call. It's sus to us, for sure.
All right, are we ready? So on December 14th, 2022, at about 8:37 p.m., our officers were dispatched to the 1000 block of Latah Street for a weapon offense. Officers learned a male in his 30s was threatening to kill his roommates. The roommates were evacuated from the apartment, and police officers attempted to speak with that male, who barricaded himself inside of his apartment. Pullman PD crisis negotiators and the Whitman County Regional SWAT team responded. The suspect began firing from his apartment. The area was evacuated. After unsuccessful negotiations, his escalating behavior, and a continued danger to the public and others, the male was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team. The suspect was found deceased when the Whitman County Regional SWAT team cleared the apartment.
Do we know who the initial call came from?
No.
Do we know who the initial call came from?
No.
Oh my God.
That tells me that there is some super red flags on that 911 call. Brent's own alleged roommates said they weren't in fear for their life. So then who called 911? And why did they call 911? And where were they when they called 911? We don't know. But they really need to release that tape. Or has it not been created by Disney and NASA just yet? I've investigated thousands and thousands of true crime cases.
Oh my God.
Yes, sometimes they withhold the 911 call for open cases for investigative purposes. Well, this is a closed case and there's nothing else to investigate in this case. Or is there? Is this case somehow connected to the Idaho 4? Some of you think it's not, some of you know it is. And whether you like it or not, somehow, some way it is connected. Because if you remember, when Brian Kohberger and his father were pulled over in Indiana, it was the very first thing Brian's father mentioned. The Pullman shooting. Yeah, the Pullman shooting would be this. The alleged passing away of Brent Kopacka.
We're coming from WSU, and we're expanding early. What's WSU? University, basically. That is SWAT team and everything.
So we're okay. I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where?
Oh, we're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Days.
Hours to drive. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
yeah, there was a mass shooting and everything.
Where? Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's supposed to be university. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So y'all work at the university there?
Actually, people are there.
Oh.
Interesting, isn't it? Especially considering the fact that there's 50 states, and out of all the states, they get pulled over in Indiana, an hour and a half from Delphi, Indiana, where Abby and Libby were sacrificed by not Richard Allen. Those other people. Yeah.
Okay, you know how on the way to Pennsylvania, Kohberger, they got pulled over twice? Do you think that was intentional? Do you think they were onto him then? Because what a fucking get pulled over twice. I don't know. I think they were keeping an eye on him.
Comment down below if you know who those other people are. And I didn't think I'd be talking about Brent Kopacka this long in this video, but there really is so much explosive stuff to discuss because in Brian Kohberger's arrest warrant, they say that suspect vehicle number 1 was spotted on Nevada Street twice. For those of you that don't know, that is in very close proximity to Coffee House Apartments where Brent Kopacka lived. This is right in the beginning of when they claim Brian Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra left Pullman and headed towards Moscow. So, why would the same vehicle be spotted twice? We don't know. But what we do know is I've mapped it. I mapped from Nevada Street to Coffee House Apartments where Brent Kopacka lived back to Nevada Street. Yeah. What are the odds? Surely another coincidence for the doubters out there, right? What does this mean? We don't know. We don't even know if that was Brian Kohberger's car, but Brian does say he was out and about driving around that night. So maybe he was out and about driving. Maybe Brian Kohberger went over and picked up Brent Kopacka, who was known to be hanging around the parking lot. Yeah, it's a possibility. Because you got to keep in mind, we're open to all possibilities here.
See, that's what I think. I think, yeah, they've done it. I think Brent Kopacka is involved. I absolutely do. And I think that's why another arrest hasn't been made if they got all this evidence because he's dead.
Here on this program, if Brian Kohberger did do it, we're going to find out. And if he didn't do it, hopefully we find out exactly who did. But the sightings of that white car on Nevada Street, near Coffee House Apartments, and the whole situation that went down with Brent Kopacka, it raises red flags. And if you add all the pieces up together, it's a boom. Yeah. I'll be back again soon with more explosive stuff in this investigation. And until next time, remember to stay safe out there because
Interesting, huh? Very interesting, in my opinion. Okay, I got some more on Brent. We're gonna. Let me see. Here's another one from Crime Circus. Yes, I want. Yeah, I don't know what's making me want to dig more into Brent Kopacka here, but we are. Okay, here we go again.
in this episode, we're going to discuss Brent Kopacka and the alleged connection between Brian Kohberger and 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. Who was Brent Kopacka? We're going to talk all about it. And we're going to talk about Buddy, too. Without further ado, let's jump right into this episode and see what I have to say for myself this time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Crime Circus. My name is Drip Drop, and I'll be your host as always. In this episode, let's start it with a boom. Some of you out there might be wondering, who was Brent Kopacka? Some of you have heard his name. Others think you've heard it all. Be prepared for some new revelations in this video. You don't want to miss any. Don't skip through, and make sure you make it to the end, because this video is going to be filled with a lot of information that you're going to want to soak up. So it's time to turn into a sponge, because you want to learn everything that I have to say right here. We're going to move through this information fast as possible. You may want to watch this video twice or even rewind certain parts so you don't miss a thing. Let's get started. First, we need to know, who was Brent Kopacka? Well, Brent Kopacka was a soldier who served in the United States Army. Thank you for serving, Brent Kopacka. We really do appreciate you. Brent spent some time over in Afghanistan in his youth so he could fight for our freedom. It was the USA versus Afghanistan, and he was over there doing what he was told to do. He came home a hero with a Purple Heart, and he had PTSD. He was mentally traumatized from the things that he did and the things that he saw over there. He was a trained assassin, courtesy of the Army. That's right, he was most likely over there doing some real killing. And there was a lot of people over there living in little mud huts, and they couldn't exactly defend themselves. So I can understand why he might have had PTSD, because he probably had a conscience, and he felt bad about the things that he did and saw. It's got to be really hard to live with those thoughts inside of your mind. I know a lot of my viewers out there struggle with the thoughts in your mind. And I just want to let you know, mental health is important, and I care about you, and Crime Circus will always be a safe place for you. Moving on. According to a background check that I had run on Brent Kopacka, for a period of time in his life, he lived in Easton, Pennsylvania. Some of you out there might be thinking, so what? What about it, Drip Drop? Well, Brian Koberger just happened to go to college at Northampton Community College in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. That college is about a 12-minute drive from where Brent Kopacka was living. But that's not all. Brian Koberger also went to DeSales University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and that college is only about a 10-minute drive from where Brent Kopacka was living. I'm going to put some maps on the screen so you can visualize how close these locations really are. You can see the Northampton Community College right here, and then you can see Brent's house over here. Now right here, you can see where DeSales University is in Bethlehem. That's a 10-minute drive to Brent's house. And then from the house that Brent was living in up to Brian Koberger's parents' house, you could see you could get there in under an hour, probably 45 to 50 minutes realistically. That's under an hour drive away. It's really not that far. Here is a picture of the house that Brent was living in at the time. It was 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 3,413 square feet. Pretty nice house, eh? Do you think he had roommates? Do you think Brian Koberger was possibly one of his roommates while Brian was going to college in that town? How in the world was Brent Kopacka able to afford that house with his disability payments from the military? We need to know the answers to these questions. And yes, every soldier deserves to rest in peace, but every soldier has a story to tell. I said it before and I'll say it again. Thank you for serving, Brent Kopacka. We really do appreciate you here in the United States. Not only the United States, but he fought for people's freedoms worldwide. Even for Canadians too. And you know that's true. So what do you think the odds are that Brent Kopacka was living so close to Brian Koberger in that small area of Pennsylvania? Were they roommates? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they ran into each other at a coffee shop downtown, or even maybe a little vegan restaurant. We don't know. Maybe this has something to do with the study that Brian Koberger posted on Reddit approximately 8 months before this crime. Maybe that's when they first came into communication, because Brian Koberger was not living in Idaho 8 months prior to November 13th. It's quite possible that Brent Kopacka was a participant in that study. Now let's see what else I have here. According to my research, Brian Koberger moved to the Pullman, Washington area around August of 2022. Brent Kopacka allegedly moved to the Pullman, Washington area about 1 month before this crime. Brent lived in coffeehouse apartments. As you can see on the screen right here, this is what the building looked like. Brian Koberger lived in step-toe apartments, and this is what those apartments look like. As you can see on this map here, those apartment complexes are only about 2 miles away from each other. So somehow, some way, Brent Kopacka and Brian Koberger, both with the exact same initials, ended up living very close to each other all the way across the country, randomly at the same time both times. This is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Do you believe in coincidences or not? Brent Kopacka was passed away by SWAT team at approximately 4 a.m. on December 15th. That's almost exactly 1 month later from the Moscow slayings on November 13th. And apparently at about the exact same hour, 4 a.m. Wow. Is this real life or some sort of scripted movie that we're all watching? Of course it's real, however, this is quite bizarre. Also interestingly, this was not a regular police department or sheriff's office. The man that fired the fatal shot into Brent Kopacka was a Washington State University police sergeant. Now what do you think the Washington State University police was doing on scene? That's the school that Brian Koberger went to. Brent Kopacka was not enrolled at the university. Not only that, this was not on university grounds. This was an apartment complex outside of the university. It wasn't a dorm room. This was just an apartment in Pullman. So what was the Washington State University police doing there? We need to know. Do you think any of this information has been a boom? Maybe a couple booms? I think so. But your opinion matters to me. So let me know down below. Also, I'd like to let you know, according to my deep research, Pullman, Washington is one of the safest places to live in the entire world. Before SWAT team decided to put a bullet in Brent Kopacka, a United States hero, a purple-hearted soldier, the last passing away in Pullman was 7 years prior to this. And before that, it was another 7 years. People don't just get passed away there. It's not normal. It's not common. It's not like Jacksonville, Florida. It's not like Orlando, Florida. It's a really safe place to live. So what do you think the odds are that a Washington State University police sergeant on the SWAT team happens to pass somebody away approximately a month after the Moscow slayings? I guess things really heated up around there, and you could probably cut the tension with a knife. Also, I'd like to remind you that only 7 hours after Brent Kopacka passed away, Brian Koberger was pulled over twice with his daddy in Indiana. Another coincidence? I don't think so. What did they find in Brent Kopacka's possession or in his apartment? Surely they must have allegedly found something that made them want to pull over Brian Koberger immediately. They apparently didn't get what they wanted the first time, so they pulled him over again a second time 10 minutes later. Why did they do it? All we can do is guess because they won't tell us, which makes me wonder, what do they have to hide? Here's a boom for you. Did you know that Brent Kopacka has a connection to Coeur d'Alene? Just like Jack, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana was born there too. What are the odds? How is Brent Kopacka connected to all these different locations? From Pennsylvania to Pullman to Coeur d'Alene? Brent Kopacka was really getting around with his disability payment. On the background check, that's where I found that Brent Kopacka had a connection to Coeur d'Alene because he registered a cell phone from that location, which wouldn't be on his background check unless he was there. Also, check this out right here. As you can see, Brent Kopacka's parents live only a very short drive away from Moscow, Idaho. It's not that far, and that's probably where they do a lot of their shopping. Also in their driveway, you can see a light-colored Hyundai Elantra and a big white truck. And as a lot of you know in this case, big white trucks and Hyundai Elantras, they're a big piece of the puzzle. So this investigation is ongoing, and this stuff's important. It really does make you wonder, why do they want to destroy the house so fast? Brian Koberger hasn't even had his day in court yet. So why do they want to destroy the house? Visiting the crime scene can be a super important part of court. Just like in the Alex Murdaugh case, the jury said that it was super important that they saw the crime scene. Nobody in South Carolina seemed to be in a super fast rush to be destroying Alex Murdaugh's property. But for some reason, the University of Idaho wants that house destroyed. And then the jury won't even be able to do a walkthrough. They won't be able to walk by Dylan Mortensen's room 3 times. They won't be able to go up to the 3rd floor to see where the horror happened. They won't be able to go into Xana's room and see how the BLOOD was able to seep through the wall so we could all see it from the outside. The jury needs to do a walkthrough inside that house, and that house needs to not be destroyed prior to somebody being convicted for this crime. What do they have to hide? I don't like secrets, ladies and gentlemen, and I do not get a good feeling for what they're up to here. Whether Brian Koberger's guilty or not, do not destroy the house. Also, I do think it's worth mentioning Halloween Ends. That came out on October 14th, and that involves Michael Myers and a local dork. The local dork ended up going on a crazy crime spree with a big knife. He felt empowered by Michael Myers. And then approximately 30 days after this movie's released, the Moscow slayings happen. I do see some super similarities here. And no, video games and horror movies do not affect everyone. However, they certainly plant seeds in people that are very unstable. They can be really motivational for somebody that's feeling unhinged. Somebody that doesn't feel like they fit into society too well. Somebody that's at their breaking point and they're ready to snap, and then they snap. And I want you to know that I haven't forgotten about Buddy. Buddy's a victim in this case. Buddy passed away in October of 2022. The police immediately said there was no connection. There hadn't even been any arrests made in either case, so how could they possibly confidently make that statement to the public when nobody had been arrested and no suspects had been named in either case? Buddy passed away about 1 week after Halloween Ends was released. This is some sort of sick shrine that Brent Kopacka's friend set up for him. Check this out. As you can see here, there's some sort of big machete stuck into a stool. There's sheaths and knives and horror movie memorabilia. You can see Ghostface in the back. He seemed to really like the movie It. It is a real sick horror movie and book. Some of you have seen it. Some of you have read the book. You know what I'm talking about. It's very disturbing. And anyone that would want Ghostface in their home might just have an infatuation with big knives and slashing. But did you see what I saw in that picture? Let me direct your attention to this. Right here. What is with this ripped blue fabric / possibly piece of a collar here? Let me put a picture of Buddy on the screen here. Are these the same? Is that Buddy's collar wrapped around the machete? Why is it ripped as if it looks like it's been cut with a knife? There could be any fabric in the world wrapped around the machete. But for some reason, it's a blue piece of fabric.
Hold on just a minute. Yeah, I seen that picture, HP. Let me see if we can go back here. And there's a machete. Looky there. There's a machete. Right, HP. This, I don't know why people take up for Brent. I mean, I'm not saying he did do it, but from the very beginning when I heard about it, I was following it, pretty intense. And he's always been a suspect to me. And, somebody in the military like that, and they could probably slaughter 4 people in 20 minutes. I don't know if he went there to hang out or not. I don't think that's ever. Buddy was Brent Kopacka's dog. That's crazy. Looks like the same machete.
It's very disturbing. And anyone that would want Ghostface in their home might just have an infatuation with big knives and slashing. But did you see what I saw in that picture? Let me direct your attention to this. Right here. What is with this ripped blue fabric / possibly piece of a collar here? Let me put a picture of Buddy on the screen here. Are these the same? Is that Buddy's collar wrapped around the machete? Why is it ripped as if it looks like it's been cut with a knife? There could be any fabric in the world wrapped around the machete. But for some reason, it's a blue piece of fabric that looks just like Buddy's collar. Leave me a comment down below. Is that the same? Yes or no? Because me personally, I have my own thoughts on it, and it gives me chills. Here's a picture of Buddy's owners shortly after the crime. You can see they're holding up a black collar. However, in all the pictures of Buddy's wearing a blue collar. So why aren't they holding up the blue collar unless it was taken and they don't have it in their possession anymore? This is a true crime circus investigation. We need answers to these questions because Buddy's family still does not have resolution. They don't have any answers, and they certainly don't have closure. Buddy's owners have been in the media, and they've said nobody has come back to ask them any further questions or investigate Buddy's passing ever since the crime happened. They're lost, they're confused, they're sad, and they're grieving. But maybe one of you out there knows something. If so, leave an anonymous tip down below. Your identity will be safe here at the circus. Also, Brent Kopacka's friend was in the news, and you could say he was acting a bit odd, allegedly. Do you think that shrine is normal? It didn't seem like a very loving shrine. Shot glasses, horror movie memorabilia, sheaths, knives, machetes, or ripped blue collar. These are all things that raise red flags. This needs to be investigated. We need answers. What are the odds they both have the exact same initials? BK and BK. Brent Kopacka, Brian Kohberger. Brent Kopacka gets passed away, and then Brian Kohberger gets pulled over 7 hours later. I know a lot of you out there are connecting the dots during this episode, and I've connected them too. I think we're onto something in this investigation. We certainly haven't been told everything. They won't even tell Brian Kohberger's own defense attorney about the DNA investigation with the little magical tree that led directly to Brian Kohberger. Also, to backtrack very slightly, because I just remembered a very important date, December 6th is when the police served a warrant on DoorDash. So to put that into the timeline, so you go from December 6th of them serving a warrant on DoorDash. December 7th is when we were first told about a white Hyundai Elantra. 5 days later, Brian Kohberger leaves town with his daddy. And then 2 days after that, Brent Kopacka is passed away by SWAT team. Make of it what you will, but there was a lot happening that week, don't you think? I just wanted to throw that in there because that is a piece of this puzzle and it's an important part of this timeline, the DoorDash warrant on December 6th. I've got a lot more information regarding this case because I've been doing a lot of investigating behind the scenes. And rest assured, there's a lot more videos in this series coming because the investigation is not complete. The state hasn't been forthcoming, so we're going to see what we can find on our own because this is our investigation. Is Brian Kohberger guilty? Maybe, maybe not, but we need to see actual evidence to know for sure. 1122 King Road is an important piece of the puzzle. We cannot let it be destroyed. Was Brent Kopacka involved? Was he a puppet and Brian Kohberger was the puppet master? That is a possibility because Brian Kohberger's study was super sketch. Anyways, I believe that you and me will get to the bottom of this one way or the other. Please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. I'll leave a link down below. If you want to see other videos in the series, links down below. Browse around my channel. Please.
It's wild, ain't it, HP, with this guy? Yeah. And Candy Prim, honey, if you just go back a little bit, it's really complicated to explain who Brian Kopacka is, Brent Kopacka. But if you go back a little bit, you'll be able to see, because yes, they are demolishing the house, PJ, on December 28th. Ain't that fucking crazy? It's insane to me. Turn to see. Here, I'll play this here, this little clip. For those, I'm not going to play everything, but I wouldn't because it's still a crime scene. That's evidence. You know, I would rather have the house stay there until the trial's over and never have to use it rather than tear the house down and then need it later on. And listening to Steve Gonzalez's last statement, there's some kind of data and video or something where like Brian or whoever was driving around several times that night looking in to see what window and this and that. And right, Candy, yeah, I'd rather have the house stand there and not use it than tear it down and then need it later on. Here, let me play this Steve thing again here. Hold on. Because it'll give you a little insight of why I don't think it should be torn down. It should not be torn down. I know we've just listened to this, but we're going to listen to it one more time for those coming in. Just listen to what Steve has to say. I pray they wait too.
Live by Steve Gonzalez. He is the father of one of the 4 students killed, Kaylee Gonzalez. Steve, thank you for being on tonight. Just your reaction to getting this news. Was this a surprise, hearing that there's a date scheduled and it is December 28th?
Yeah, I was surprised that we're at a moment in the case that we don't even have a trial date. You know, we've had a trial date for almost the vast majority once they had a suspect. So we don't have a trial date, but we have a date to have, largely the biggest piece of evidence being destroyed, which just seems backwards.
So I would have expected that something this monumental would have been discussed behind the scenes, that your lawyer, Shannon Gray, would have been in conversations at least to give you guys, enough time to process this. And it sounds like that's not the case. You didn't get much time, different than the time that we got in terms of this announcement.
No, and I kind of take this as from a perspective of that my opinion's not important as a parent. That's not it. What is important is the lead investigators at the county, state, and federal level, and it is to my knowledge that they are not in all agreement. And we tried to get them to all come in agreement and address, come out with a formal statement. So if they can't all agree, I find it very hard for the parents to all agree. We're all trying to get through this the best way we can. I want to be absolutely respectful to every single one of the parents. I understand that this has to go down, and I'm not going to fight it forever. And I want to be careful what I fight, because this is a losing battle. But
Well, and it's a long battle as well, as we've come to understand. That brings me to the issue of Mrs. Chapin. Ethan Chapin's mom, Stacy, has given that statement to me, saying that, we're okay with this at this point. We agree with the university. We think it's in the best interest of the kids who are there, including her 2 kids, and the community as a whole. What are your thoughts about that?
I totally respect it. I get it. I have leaked footage. I've seen things that they may have not seen. I know for a fact the path that this white salon, this car took, and people are going to wonder what he was doing when he parks in certain locations for extended amount of time. What was he looking at? I want to know what he was looking at, and I don't know how you can see what this man was looking at without the house being there. What windows was he peering into? Why did he pick that location to stop at? Why did he keep going back to these certain locations? And I don't know about the other 12 or 13 times that he was there. I just know the day that this happened and the footage that was given to me. So I'm going to do what's best for my girl. I'm going to protect her. I'm going to weigh on the side of what's best for her, and making sure that I'm not going to let something slip through our hands that I could have said something. But I do understand it has to go.
I have this question for you, because up until now I hadn't really contemplated this, but do you think it's at all possible that the prosecution is so confident about their case, they're not worried at all about the house standing?
I've been told that exact thing. I've been told 100%. The amount of stuff we have, Steve, relax. You're a very aggressive a father. Relax. But it's not in my character to just sit back and just know that an opportunity isn't being seized upon. And I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't live with myself if later on, something happened and a jury member said, you know what, it really came down to the fact that I couldn't see firsthand. They told us the ideal jury member was someone who had thousands of acres and had no time to watch TV. He was out on the farm. Well, I don't feel like that kind of guy is going to see the footage that I seen and not want to understand what was going on in the house. And a computer program is going to mean nothing to that farmer. Almost zero value in a computer model to a farmer like that.
I want to dovetail off something you just said, and that is that they've told you that, Steve, the amount of stuff we have, relax. Are you referring to like victims advocates or people actually in the know of the case, that they have such a solid case that you should rest easy?
Because I've made myself vocal, people have reached out to me, and some of those people have just said that if what I know is accurate, Steve, there's a massive amount of information. This case will open up other investigators to know that there's a whole nother level of data being collected on people and some of that will come out in this case.
Thank you for watching. Go to
Very interesting, some of the words he uses, isn't it? People, there's, and I just feel Brent Kopacka. I don't know why. And here was a little news segment about Brent when he died. So I can get Candy Prim here a little bit of context of.
Moments at Washington State University tonight. Students are back in their dorms after being evacuated in the middle of the night last night. They were woken up in the middle of the night because of a nearby crime scene. Crime 2 has actually been at the Palouse and on the Palouse since 6 o'clock this morning, covering this breaking news. Janelle Finch is picking up our coverage now with reaction from students tonight. Janelle.
I've been in Pullman for hours, keeping a close watch on the crime scene just below me. Earlier today, we weren't exactly sure what apartment the situation happened in, but now in the dark of night, only one apartment on the 3rd floor is shining bright. So we can potentially assume that that is where the situation happened. And as you can see, there is still crime tape up here at the scene just hours after police shot and killed a man during a SWAT standoff. Wednesday night, WSU students living near campus say they were preparing for their last day of finals.
We had been finishing final papers in my apartment. We finished around, they were due at midnight, right? Midnight, yeah. So we finished around midnight. We were leaving to go get food.
But when university students Kylie Canyon Brewer and Madison Barbon walked out the door, they ran into an unexpected situation.
We walked out. She walked out first. There was just a ton of people in the hallway, cops.
Pullman police responded to their neighbor's apartment at the complex just off of Stadium Way around 8:40 p.m. According to Pullman police, a man in his 30s was threatening to kill his 2 roommates. Police evacuated the building, and WSU alerted students to shelter in place. Police say the suspect's behavior escalated, and he began firing gunshots in his apartment.
At the time, I thought it was just really just fireworks or something like that, but very startling to hear.
Students living on campus nearby say it was scary to know how close they were to an active SWAT situation. The Pullman police chief says after the suspect would not comply, a SWAT member shot and killed him.
As a student, it's very scary. You don't really know, who people are sometimes, especially it being in a really big school. So you never really know if you're close to danger or, where the safe places are on campus. So it's very startling and very scary for sure.
An hour and a half after the university told students to shelter in place, they were told the situation was all clear. Still, students say they can't help but think about recent crimes on the Palouse, including last month's Idaho murders.
It's very scary to, the reality of what's going on right now.
Pullman police say Washington State Patrol is taking over further investigation and communication. Students we spoke to living at this apartment say a mix of students and families live at the complex. At this time, we do not know the identity of those involved, but we do know the 2 roommates were able to evacuate and are safe. WSU police are set to reveal the name of the officer involved.
All right, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay.
You guys ready? Yep.
All right, thank you. So on December 14th, 2022, at about 8:37 p.m., our officers were dispatched to the 1000 block of Latah Street for a weapon offense. Officers learned a male in his 30s was threatening to kill his roommates. The roommates were evacuated from the apartment, and police officers attempted to speak with that male, who barricaded himself inside of his apartment. Pullman PD crisis negotiators and the Whitman County Regional SWAT team responded. The suspect began firing from his apartment. The area was evacuated. After unsuccessful negotiations, his escalating behavior and a continued danger to the public and others, the male was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team. The suspect was found deceased when the Whitman County Regional SWAT team cleared the apartment. On behalf of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team, Pullman PD has requested assistance of the Washington State Patrol to investigate the officer-involved shooting. Further information will be released by the Washington State Patrol. Per RCW 43102, this investigation must be completely independent of the agency whose officer was involved in the use of deadly force. The Whitman County Regional SWAT Team is made up of officers from the Whitman County Sheriff's Office, Pullman Police Department, and the WSU Police Department. Thank you.
All right. Do you have follow-up questions now?
I don't really have anything more I can give you at this time.
Or I just mean, like to some things that I like heard, but I want to make sure it's right. Like from what you
Okay.
said. What was the block number for the apartment?
In the 1000 block of Latah.
Block of Latah. Okay. And you said it was a man in his 30s threatening to kill his roommate?
Yes.
Did his roommates get out?
Yes.
Do you know when that call came in?
8:37.
Has that officer been put on administrative leave?
Right now, we're in the very beginning stages of this investigation, and Washington State Patrol will be conducting that investigation.
Do we know the status of the roommates yet? Or how many there were?
There were 2 roommates that were evacuated, and they're fine.
Was that before or after the firing started?
Before.
Do we know who the initial call came from?
No. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jake.
Yep. Everybody come get their wires.
Crazy, crazy. It is a cover up. I swear I feel like he was involved. Okay, do y'all remember the the coroner on for the Idaho 4 when she spoke out in the very beginning? She wasn't supposed to. I just ran across that. I like playing some of the older stuff, in all these cases, because you hear stuff that you hadn't heard before, or you missed, or you forgot about. So let's listen to this coroner.
Kathy with a C, Mabbutt, Mabbutt.
And I'm going to ask you, how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing it for 16 years, and I just got reelected for another 4.
So what is it that, or I guess, when did you get the call on Sunday?
I got the call just a few minutes after noon that there were 4 homicides, but I didn't go to the scene because of law enforcement doing their investigation first. So I didn't actually go to the scene until about 5 or 5:30.
Can you walk us through, like, for our viewers, kind of the process between when police show up and then you guys getting the bodies and doing your examinations?
Sure. Well, law enforcement goes through and looks for any evidence, takes videos and pictures of everything in there, and they'll start talking with people. So I don't really need to be there for that. They can't move the bodies. I mean, the bodies have to stay as they were until the coroner gets there. So that's what my job is, to look at the bodies.
As a coroner, do you guys do the autopsies and all that?
No, we some do if they're an actual medical examiner, but we have forensic pathologists and we contract with Spokane to do that.
So in your experience, what is it that you saw when you showed up?
Well, there was a lot of blood. It was a very sad scene with 4 murdered college students.
You're rolling all 4 deaths on the sites?
Yes.
Okay. And can you give us a manner of death? Yeah.
I believe that the press release was that they were from a sharp object. So
stabbings.
yeah, I will know more after the autopsies tomorrow.
And do you believe this could be like a murder suicide or?
No, they're 4 homicides.
And when it comes to doing the investigation post autopsy, that falls on you, correct?
Yes, it's my job to determine the manner and mechanism of death.
And then I know with toxicology results, there can often be, at least in Washington, a delay. So do you have any idea how long it could take if those were relevant to get any type of results back on that?
Well, the toxicology reports, right, they usually take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer. But they might, I don't think they're going to be relevant in the actual manner or cause of death.
And do we know how long between the time of death and when police found them, approximately?
No, I don't know for sure.
Do we have like any, like, could it have been hours? Could it have been a day? Was it maybe close? Like, is there any sort of like time frame there?
Not that I'm aware of.
And you said the scene was really difficult. I mean, is this something you've had to deal with before in Moscow?
Since I've been coroner, there have been at least 2 other multiple homicide scenes that I've been involved in. So
Would you say this is probably the most gruesome?
oh, it's hard to just single it out. It's the only one I've been to where there have been 4 people at one scene. There have been the other ones have had multiple scenes.
And was anybody else injured, like any non-deceased people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be notified either.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like because the injuries could be similar matter to you.
Oh, right.
Were the deceased all in close proximity to each other, or were they in different rooms?
I don't know that I can discuss that.
That was my next question too. So I think, yeah. Will we be able to get a copy of your report once it's concluded? I'm sure it'll be.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just call.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Do you know what the time frame for that would be?
It just depends on how relevant the toxicology report is, but
Oh, okay. Okay. So it was like the 4 to 6 weeks.
it could be. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh no, she was an odd one. Candy Pram, are you still here, love? I'm going to play another thing on Brent because I want to because I haven't really dug into him, and now I want to more. I'm getting back into this case, and Crime Circus has done an excellent job. If you haven't checked Crime Circus out, we're going to be playing another one of his next here. He's doing an excellent job on these. All right, good. Hey, Meg's love. Okay, Candy Prim, I was asking because I'm going to show some more for Brent because I don't want you to have to go back all the way, and that way you can be here. That way we know he's interesting.
Seven in my multi-part series where I take a deep dive investigation into the happenings in Moscow, Idaho, starring Brian Koberger. In today's video, we are going to discuss a lot of information in a short amount of time. We are going to talk about Brent Lee Kopacka, Brian Christopher Koberger. We might even discuss BTK. That's Bind Torture KILL. And of course, we can't forget about Buddy. I know that's a lot of B's, just like there's a lot of J's in this case. Speaking of Buddy, I believe I found another connection in this case. We're going to talk about that in this video. Super important in this video, we are going to have a brief discussion on Dylan and Bethany, the surviving roommates. So many of you have questions about them. Speaking of questions, I'm going to answer some more of your questions at the end of this video. Now, without further ado, let's just jump right into this 7th episode and see what I have to say for myself this time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Crime Circus. My name is Drip Drop, and I'll be your host as always. This is my 7th episode in this multi-part series. If you haven't seen the other episodes on Moscow, Idaho, and Brian Kohberger, I have a playlist on this channel, and I'll be leaving a link down below, as well as a link to my second channel, The Crime Circus Cult, where I have another Moscow, Idaho video over there. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get my second channel to 100,000 subscribers, and I can only do that with your help. Each and every single one of you out there means everything to me, so if you could help me do that, I'd appreciate you forever. Either way, I appreciate you watching this video right here. And speaking of this video right here, let's start it with a boom. For those of you that aren't familiar, Brent Kopacka was a soldier with PTSD, and he was shot and passed away forever from SWAT team in Pullman, Washington. He lived about 2 miles away from Brian Kohberger. At around this exact moment in time, Brian Kohberger and his father were being pulled over 2 times in a row in Indiana. They knew all about the shooting that was happening in Pullman, Washington. Brian's father looked a little sketched out, and Brian looked even more sketched out. If I was a police officer, I would have taken them both into custody just for the way they looked at me. But I guess it's good I'm not in law enforcement. Anyways, BLK, that's Brent Kopacka, lived approximately 2 miles away from Brian Christopher Kohberger. That's BCK. Pullman, Washington is a small town, similar to Moscow, Idaho. I really don't think there's a whole lot of action that happens in these small towns in the middle of nowhere in Idaho and Washington, but apparently it was an action-packed couple of months between October 21st and December 15th, before, after, and everywhere in between. There's some really specific dates and times within, and we're going to have a brief discussion on some of those right here. Brent Kopacka was a soldier. He fought overseas in Afghanistan in Operation Freedom. He earned a Purple Heart because he developed a brain injury as he was overseas fighting for America. Thank you so much for serving, Brent Kopacka. We really appreciate you here at Crime Circus. And I know a lot of you ladies watching this right now really appreciate a man in uniform. And some of you men out there appreciate a man in uniform too. So shout out to all of you. Anyways, Brent had PTSD. He had some psychological issues. He struggled with life after he was discharged from the military. He lived in an apartment in Pullman, Washington. And we're going to take a look at some pictures right here and now. This is a picture of Brent Kopacka right here from his military days. He was a bit younger here from when he passed away in his late 30s in Pullman, Washington, but this is to give you an idea of what he looked like next to the American flag because he was an American soldier. This is a picture of Brent when he was a little older in his 30s. This is to give you a better representation of what he may have looked like when he passed away. Looking at this photo right here, this picture was posted by Brent Kopacka approximately 1 week before he was attacked by SWAT team in his own apartment. He posted it on his Facebook page and it says, I see you too. And you can see the spelling is a bit odd, and he didn't put any spaces in those words. I think that's some type of clue, but I'm just not sure what that clue means. Maybe one of you out there watching this right now understands this clue and can help me answer these questions. If so, leave a comment down below and let me know, what does ICQ2 mean? Is this any sort of reference to Inside Looking from Reddit? I'm going to put that picture on the screen right now. For those of you that may or may not remember, Inside Looking is rumored to have been Brian Kohberger because this person on Reddit seemed to have a lot of inside information and they were acting super sketch. And quite a few Reddit users actually said that they reported that user to the FBI tip line as well as to the Moscow PD tip line. Within weeks of those tips coming in, Brian Kohberger was under arrest and Brent Kopacka was passed away. So, quite interesting. Inside Looking had an eyeball as his profile picture, and for some reason, in the middle of all that happening, Brent Kopacka decided to post I see you too with a picture of his eyeball. We are going to take a super zoom into his eyeball as far as we can. There is a reflection happening inside of his eyeball. We may all see something a little different here, but I'd like to know what you see because what I see kind of disturbs me. But I don't want to be the one to plant any seeds in your mind, and don't read any other comments before you leave a comment if you're going to comment about what you think you see in a reflection of Brent's eye. This is a deceased soldier, and whatever we see in his eye may be a connection or a clue to what happened in Moscow, Idaho. But then again, it might not. We just don't know. This is a guessing show, folks, and I'm not going to spread misinformation on the show like some other channels may enjoy doing. Anybody mentioned in this video is presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. And none of this information is to be considered factual. That's a legal disclaimer. Moving on. Now what we're looking at here on the screen is somebody named Drip Drop. You may recognize him from this very show here at Crime Circus. He had nothing to do with Moscow, Idaho. But in my opinion, he is damn good at reporting on the Moscow, Idaho happenings from 1122 King Road from that fateful night on November 13th, 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you watching the show. I really, really do. And on that note, we are going to have a very brief interruption to this program, and I'll be back in just a minute. So many of my friends and family have been in accidents in the past, and they didn't know what to do because it was too complicated. That's all changed with Morgan & Morgan. They've modernized the process to make it super easy. Now, it can be done directly from your phone. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They have over 100 offices nationwide and more than 800 lawyers. With over $15 billion recovered for clients, Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation. Submitting an injury claim with Morgan & Morgan is so easy. It's more like using an app than hiring a lawyer. Seriously, submitting a claim with Morgan & Morgan is more like ordering takeout than hiring a lawyer. With Morgan & Morgan, you can submit a claim without ever having to leave the couch. It's as fast as 8 clicks or less to submit a claim with Morgan & Morgan. If you're ever injured in an accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. It's so easy, you can submit a claim in 8 clicks or less without ever having to leave your couch. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/circus or dial pound LAW. That's pound 529 directly from your phone. Now back to Brent Kopacka. The police department was looking for a Hyundai Elantra between the years 2011 and 2013. They were very specific about this. And to be so specific about a certain age range, that surely means you've eliminated the other years, such as 2014, 15, 16, as well as 2009 and 10. Otherwise, it would be a much broader range, such as we're looking for any white Hyundai Elantra. Well, it turns out the Hyundai Elantra they found was a 2014, but they weren't looking for a 2014. They were looking for a 2011 and 2013. Now let's take a look at the car that's parked at Brent Kopacka's parents' house. What we see in the driveway of Brent Kopacka's parents' house is a Hyundai Elantra that appears to be a 2011 to 2013. Is this the car that police were initially looking for? Keep in mind, Brian drove a 2014, and they never said they were looking for a 2014. White and silver cars can look very similar on body cam and surveillance cameras late at night with bad lighting. I saw a lot of intelligent online sleuths speculating that it may have been an actual silver Hyundai Elantra that the police were looking for long before Brian Kohberger was ever on the radar and before he was arrested or taken into custody or any of that stuff. I'm not saying that there's any connection to this vehicle and the crime, but it certainly sparks interest. This is one heck of a coincidence, folks. Brian Kohberger is fleeing Washington in a Hyundai Elantra. Brent Kopacka passes away, and there's a Hyundai Elantra parked at his parents' house. This is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on. As you can see in this picture right here, this is taken from a news article. This is the apartment complex that Brent Kopacka lived in, and this is apparently where SWAT team did what they did. And I am going to draw your attention to the lower left corner to this car that happens to be covered in snow. And in my opinion, this looks like a silver Hyundai Elantra. I could be wrong about this, but a lot of you out there are a lot smarter than me with identifying vehicles. But this looks like the vehicle that's parked at Brent's parents' house. Is it a Hyundai Elantra or not? And if it is it the same Hyundai Elantra? There's a lot of unanswered questions in this story, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to take a look at a social media post involving Brent's machete, as well as some things in the background of the picture that are very eye-opening. Let's take a look. This was a post on social media from one of Brent Kopacka's friends. He says, having a drink with Brent. I put this machete in the stool so no one can sit in it. Ha ha. God damn it, I effing miss you. I know, you hated it when I said God damn it. That's probably why I say it so much, because I'm a D-I-C-K. Ha ha, love you, dude. Well, we know Brent Kopacka was a religious man, and he didn't like anything bad said in the Lord's good name. He also owned this big machete. His former friend is apparently having a drink with Brent's ghost. Now let's zoom into this picture and take a look at some of Brent's possessions. We see he's got this machete here that's stuck into a stool. Behind the machete is a Pennywise poster. That's from the Stephen King movie and book It. That's a really creepy clown. Zooming in further behind, we see he's got some Pennywise shot glasses. He's got a photo from the It movie. He's got another photo of Pennywise from the movie It. He's got an alcohol bottle. And if we zoom in over here, interestingly enough, we see Ghostface from the Scream series. For those of you that aren't familiar, Ghostface from Scream used a big K-bar knife to hack up and slice college students and other miscellaneous people in a long-running slasher flick. It's a horror movie. It's who Brian Draper was obsessed with from Pocatello, Idaho. He's another slasher. Anyways, let's see what else we see in this photo. Now we are going to take a look directly above Ghostface's picture. And what we see here appears to be the handle to a knife hanging on the wall. So we see some horror movie stuff. We see some shot glasses. We see the handle of a knife. We see a picture of Ghostface. We see something inside of this little sandwich bag here, but I'm not exactly sure what that is. And of course, you get the machete up front, along with this big poster of Pennywise. Also down here on the stool, maybe some of you out there can identify exactly what this is, but this appears to be some type of grenade from the Army. So he certainly liked his weapons, and unfortunately he had PTSD. So apparently Brent Kopacka battled demons throughout his life. He had PTSD, that's post-traumatic stress disorder. It happens to the best of us. Happens to some people with a bad breakup, happens to some people in a bad car accident, and it happens to many soldiers that go overseas to fight for our freedom here in America. Now let's take a look at some of these other pictures I found. Brent Kopacka was a paratrooper in the military. That means he jumped out of airplanes and rode around on a parachute. I did a Google search to see what kind of weapons they carry. And apparently he carried this little knife with an orange handle called the M724. According to Google, it says the M724 is the current issue and perhaps the most widely recognized switchblade knife in the world. It is still in use by U.S. military pilots, paratroopers, and rescue crews, as well as NATO forces around the world. Here's a couple other images of this knife. So yes, this former soldier with PTSD really liked his weapons and he liked his knives. Let's take a look at this random video I found on the internet. This is a paratrooper coming out of the sky, and he ends up landing on somebody's balcony, as you can see right here. And I know from my many months of researching this case, a lot of people have speculated that the killer must have entered on the third floor from the third floor balcony. Some people think that the person might have jumped up from the couch to the balcony, but that's just not possible unless the assailant was about 25 feet tall. That balcony is way up there. But do you think it's possible somebody could have came out from an airplane and landed on the balcony with a parachute on? Some of you might think that's crazy, but I just showed you in a video how that's quite possible, how someone can use a parachute and land on someone's balcony. And no, I am not accusing Brent Kopacka of committing this crime. Like I said earlier in this video, everybody mentioned this video is presumed innocent. It is very possible that Brian Kohberger was attempting to frame Brent Kopacka, a former soldier with PSD, for this crime, which may have been why he planted the sheath. And it may have been why the anonymous 911 call was called in and Brent ended up passed away. Brian may have viewed Brent as the perfect patsy for this crime. We just don't know yet. Brian is entitled to his fair day in court where the evidence will be analyzed. He hasn't even had his evidentiary hearing yet. And at the evidentiary hearing, the defense will get to dissect some of the evidence that's been presented in court to see if there's enough evidence to even hold Brian Kohberger in a cage. Now moving on, let's talk about Buddy. Buddy was a 12-year-old dog that lived in Moscow, Idaho. Approximately 3 weeks before the horrible happening on that fateful night on November 13th, Buddy passed away in a horrible, vicious manner. I'm going to keep this segment as short as possible because I know a lot of you out there cannot stand to hear about animal cruelty. If that's the case, please fast forward about 3 to 5 minutes from this point right here. I don't want you to have to endure hearing anything you don't want to hear. Buddy was let out by his owners to use the restroom, and he was never seen again until his body was found. Buddy passed away due to knife wounds, but not just any knife wounds. He was SKINNED. That's right, folks. It was really brutal and really bad, and this was just a little innocent, harmless dog. This dog had never harmed anyone, and his senior citizen owners loved him very much. Now, the numerology connection to 1122 King Road. The address where Buddy lived was 2111. I'm going to put these numbers on the screen. You let me know. Is there any connection to these crimes? Keep in mind, Amityville was 112. King Road was 1122. Buddy's passing was 2111. And Buddy's passing happened on 10/21/22. Moscow was 11/13/22. Now the significance of October 21st when Buddy passed. Apparently, Brian Kohberger got in big trouble on that day in college. And apparently by that time, he had already been stalking the girls for months. A lot of people have left me comments letting me know that there's no way a vegan would ever hurt an animal. But if you've done a simple Google search like I have, you would see that a lot of vegans have been arrested for animal cruelty and animal passing away. I'm not saying all vegans do that, but there are a lot of news stories about that. Just like non-vegans, vegans can be deranged and commit senseless acts of violence. There's a lot of bad things in this world, and that's what I investigate here at Crime Circus. All the bad things and all the bad people. My goal is to get justice for all the families, from the Idaho 4 to Buddy's owners. Every single person deserves justice. Now, to give you a better idea, so you can really visualize where Buddy lived in Moscow in comparison to the passing away house where the Idaho 4 event happened, you can take a look at this overhead view from Google Maps, and you can see it's approximately 10 minutes away from 1122 King Road. It is pretty much the furthest, most north, out-of-the-way house in all of Moscow, Idaho. It is on its own little private dirt road. There appears to be 3 other houses on this private drive. And apparently Buddy was found in this field the next day, even though he was let out to play back here. Nobody's been arrested for this crime. Nobody's been held accountable. According to the owners, nobody's been back to investigate further. The owners are willing to have Buddy exhumed for further testing, but nobody's come back to check in on Buddy. As you can see in this news article right here, Idaho police rule out passing away connection to brutal beep of dog found filleted nearby. And below it, it says Moscow police say incident of beeped dog unrelated to beeping of university students. I have a very serious question for my audience. How could the police possibly say that it's unrelated when nobody's been held accountable and there's no suspect in Buddy's passing? Apparently, Brian Kohberger's cell phone pinged in Moscow, Idaho 12 times leading up to November 13th. Until somebody is arrested and convicted for Buddy's passing, it's impossible to say it's unrelated. The police also said there was no evidence of any stalker. Well, apparently Brian Kohberger is the evidence of there being a stalker because we all know what happened on November 13th, and that wasn't just a random act. That was infatuation, obsession, a sickness, and visual snow did not stop Brian Kohberger from seeing those victims, finding his way around the house, or taking the long way to and from the crime scene and driving all the way across the country. I'm starting to think Brian Kohberger didn't really have visual snow anymore. I just can't see how he would have been able to operate and do all the things he did, or why his father would willingly be a passenger in a vehicle driving across country with somebody having visual snow as the driver. I know I certainly wouldn't do that because life is far too precious to trust somebody with visual snow to drive you anywhere. Shout out to all my kind viewers that have visual snow. I just wouldn't be a passenger in your vehicle. Nothing personal. So to make a long story short, not everybody has taken the crime against Buddy very serious, but I'm a strong believer in justice for Buddy. Leave me a comment down below if you want justice for Buddy too. All eyes and all lights need to be shined on what happened to poor Buddy. Moving on. I've received a lot of questions and even comments stating I've been wrong about a few things. We are going to discuss the keypad door locks. It seems there's a lot of people convinced that the girls had keypad locks on their bedroom doors. I'm going to clear all that up for you right here now, folks. The girls did not have keypad locks. Let's take a look at these pictures. As you can see on the front of the house on 1122 King Road, the front door had a keypad lock. That is the only door in the entire house that had a keypad lock. The back door of the house was a sliding glass door. And by all accounts, that was never locked. I have a sliding glass door on my house too, and I never lock it. I probably should because I could become a victim. But similar to Freddy Krueger or Byron Smith on Elm Street, I welcome somebody into my house because I'm prepared. I'm ready. I don't lock my doors here. Invited or uninvited. Do you really want to step into the circus tent? As we can see here, this is a picture of Dylan, one of the surviving roommates. This picture was taken on the second floor in the bedroom next to the kitchen. This is the bedroom that Brian Kohberger allegedly walked by 3 times without ever harming Dylan. This picture was taken just a few weeks to a month before the crime, and if we zoom in past Dylan's belly, past her tight clothing that she's wearing, we can see just a good old-fashioned regular doorknob on a bedroom door. It's got one of those really cheapy, basic little turn locks, and that's all there is to it. There's no keypad there. There's been a lot of people trolling in this case, a lot of false information, fake news. You can't believe everything you see or read on this case. You must take everything with a grain of salt, and everything must be presumed guessing. Some things are just really easy to debunk. We look at that picture, we see there's no keypad. There's been rumors of Xana's father driving from Utah all the way up to Moscow, Idaho in the weeks leading up to what happened to fix the door lock. Besides him allegedly saying it, I've seen no proof of that, and I find it highly unlikely that somebody's parent would have to take a 10-hour road trip to fix a door lock when there's plenty of college boys that are quite capable of fixing a door lock. And I don't believe any of those people locked their doors in that house because they were social bugs. That's why they had so many parties and people were just welcome to come in and out. And dozens, if not hundreds of people had the key code to the front door anyways. That house was basically a stop and go. You could come and go anytime you wanted. Nobody locked their doors. That was just normal behavior. Now moving on, let's jump into a few questions that I'm going to answer that you, the audience, asked. I'm going to see if I can give you answers to these questions before we wrap up this video. A lot of you ask a lot of good questions, but I'm only going to answer a few right here. Let's jump right into this. Drip drop. When Dylan had her door open, was the light on in her room as the bushy eyebrow guy came by? Well, I've certainly never been in Dylan's bedroom in Moscow, Idaho, and Dylan has a wonderful boyfriend named Quinn from Boise, Idaho, and I don't think he'd be very happy if Drip Drop was in his girl's bedroom. As for the light being on, I certainly have no way to know that one way or the other. If Dylan did have the light on and Brian did have visual snow and he was walking by Dylan's bedroom, it probably would have burned his retinas and he would have felt a lot of pain and disorientation as he was trying to escape. However, Dylan's light was probably off because I believe she was trying to sleep and she was startled by the noises she was hearing. And when you're startled by noises you're hearing, you sneak and creep and peek with the light off. You don't want to be seen, so she probably just peeked her eyeball out of the crack in the door. Next question. Wasn't Dylan's room above Bethany's room? I'm going to show you a picture of the 1122 Moscow, Idaho house where the crime happened, and I'm going to show you exactly where each of those girls' bedrooms were. As you can see in this picture, this is a front side angle of the crime scene house. On the bottom left, right here, where you can see that arrow pointing, that's where Bethany lived. That's the first floor. Directly above Bethany's room was the living room. Now, towards the back of the house, across from the kitchen, that would be Dylan's room on the second floor, which was directly below Maddie's room. Hopefully that clears that up for you. On to the next question. Drip drop. Did BK lock the 2 rooms after the passing aways to gain escape time? Could Dylan didn't notice anything except closed rooms where people did not answer when called and just some beep drops in the living room? That's been an early on rumor in this case that the bedroom doors were locked, but I just don't believe that's the case. Recently, I've heard that Ethan and Xana's best friend found them, and there was no discussion of picking any locks or kicking any doors down. So I don't believe that he locked any doors, and he probably just did his stab, slice, and then he escaped as fast as he could as he peeled out in his car. I could see Brent doing this, but not Brian. Have you looked into Dylan's boyfriend? Well, we're all entitled to our opinions. Some people do believe Brent could have done this. Others believe that Brian's being framed and that Brian couldn't have done this. Did Brent do it? Did Brian do it? Did somebody else do it? We just don't know because we haven't seen enough evidence in this case to know for sure one way or the other. In the American justice system, in the court of law, everyone's entitled to their day in court to look at the evidence. Otherwise, there's really no point of having a defense attorney if you have no defense, if everyone is just automatically guilty the second they're arrested. It is possible Brian was attempting to frame Brent. Some people also believe it's possible Brent did this and was attempting to frame Brian, or that they were working together as a team, the 2 BKs. Brian did seem to have an infatuation with having an unknowing, unwilling partner in a crime. Brian Draper had his little sidekick in Pocatello, Idaho. Tori Adamsick. They stabbed and sliced up Cassie Jo Stoddart. If you haven't seen their interrogations, those are available right here on this channel. So let's look at this picture right here. This is Dylan to the left, and to the right, that's Dylan's boyfriend. That's Quinn. Some people have given him a hard time. Some people have made full-blown videos about him saying he must have done it. Well, I may be one of the only channels in the world to stick up for Quinn Kelly, but Quinn Kelly has never been to Moscow, Idaho. He has a Snapchat picture of himself taken in Boise, Idaho on the night that this crime happened. Some people might say, oh, how convenient. That's an alibi, folks. He says he's never been to Moscow, and I have no reason not to believe him. Some people have said some mean things about him, but I'm not going to condone cyberbullying here at Crime Circus. Quinn Kelly is an innocent boy, and he loves Dylan very much. A lot of people have been attacked and slandered in this case, and nobody deserves that. I've even seen true crime YouTubers attacking each other on this case. That's not necessary. What matters in this case is the victims' families, and the perpetrator being brought to justice for this horrible crime. Innocent people do not need to be dragged through the mud in this case. It's not right. So you might think that Quinn looks a little suspicious here in this picture. His tattoo might raise a red flag to you, but I don't think he had anything to do with this crime, folks. He had too much to lose, too much to live for. He didn't want to give up a girl like Dylan. He was enjoying his time with Dylan. A girl like Dylan is a once-in-a-lifetime girl, and it's never good.
Yep, Megs, I agree. He did ask that. And like I said, you can't arrest someone else if they're dead that was involved. You know what I'm saying?
To mess up things with a once-in-a-lifetime love. Anyways, this video's already gone on way too long. I hope I answered some of your questions. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Maybe you have some answers to some of my questions in this video. Maybe
This is very interesting. I've always thought Brent Kopacka. Always. That's about all I have for this evening. I mean, we can keep covering this if y'all want to. Like, not today, but like tomorrow or something. Because I'm going to dig more into this. And because I'm into this case now again, since this new stuff's coming out. Yes, okay. We will definitely be doing more on Brent Kopacka, and I'm going to focus more on him, and we're going to dig into more, just a lot more. But I'm going to end that for now and call it a night and go browse the YouTube streets. I might see y'all out there somewhere. And I will see you all later. Bye.